Hello, everybody. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas Eve. I figured that today would be a day for something special, something nice, something out of the ordinary, especially for me. The category doesn't deceive you. We are more or less just chatting today. Well, not quite. See, I do have something lined up. Something that I believe you all will enjoy very much. Today I will be doing live readings from the SCP Wiki. I have a selection that I have chosen for this special time of year that absolutely do not match it. Consider these gifts you would not want to be given, ultimately brought by an entity you would never want to meet. This is a selection of some of my favorites over the years. I have been keeping an eye on the SCP Foundation community for many, many years. I believe since 2012 or 2013. Just kind of a lurker. Reading, enjoying, laughing sometimes. Some of these can be quite funny in some dark and strange ways. So settle in. Get yourself a nice drink. I have myself a mug of some cherry, grape, and cream wine. It is exactly as rich and indulgent as it sounds. And settle in. We're about to tell some horror stories by the campfire on this cold and blistery winter's eve. Our first entry tonight is SCP-093. And before I can truly begin, I do have to cover one important element of the SCP Foundation, and that is the fact that, as you can see, it is formatted like a formal document, but more than that, it's what are the object classes? What do they represent? Safe, Euclid, and Keter are the primary object classes found within the SCP Foundation. Safe does not indicate that the object poses no harm, but indicates how easy it is to contain this item, this anomaly, object or individual. These can consist of people that want to be kept by the Foundation of their own volition. It can consist of objects that do not pose any, that cannot escape on their own and will not escape on their own, and in some cases may even provide a benefit to the Foundation. SCP-093 is not one of these. It is a Euclid class, which is not quite understood. It's the class of objects that we don't quite understand how to maintain or contain, but that we understand enough to classify it and to keep it in relative safekeeping. Welcome to the stream, Cuttlefish. How are you doing today? We haven't yet started the reading. I'm just going over what the object classes mean. Keter is one that is especially fun, and I am saving to explain in the next entry. So, SCP-093, one of my personal favorites, if not my absolute favorite. This is an object class Euclid. Under the special containment procedures, it indicates us to see the testing document SCP-093-T1 for an outline of testing conditions. SCP-093 must remain on a mirror at all times and under video surveillance. Admittance into the area of SCP-093's containment must be authorized only with proper video recording and subject retrieval procedures in place. Any attempt to use SCP-093 outside of an approved test will be dealt with severely, up to and including termination. SCP-093 is a primarily red disc carved from a stone composite resembling cinnabar, with circular engravings and unknown symbols carved at half a centimeter's depth around the entire object. Deeper cuts are present on SCP-093 with a depth of 1 to 1.5 centimeters. SCP-093 is 7.6 centimeters in diameter and fits comfortably into most palms without abrasion. SCP-093 will change hue when held by a living individual. The colors taken by SCP-093 are still being researched to establish a link. Current belief holds that the changes depend upon regrets carried by the holder. If SCP-093 is removed from a mirror and not held by a person, it will seek out the nearest mirror-like surface. SCP-093 has been observed to travel in the largest possible circle while rolling, building up phenomenal speed. The mechanism of this acceleration is currently unknown. If an obstacle is between SCP-093 and the nearest mirror-like surface, it will use this momentum to punch through the object and continue on its course at this speed. It will only stop when a mirror-like surface is contacted. Despite tremendous impact velocities, no damage will be dealt to SCP-093 or the mirror. Additional notes. No records exist to clarify the nature of SCP-093's discovery or presence in the Foundation. See SCP-093-OD. Since no records exist explaining SCP-093's method of containment, a test procedure was initiated to establish why mirrors must be used to contain it. The results of SCP-093-T1 lead to the discovery of living beings holding SCP-093 being able to move through mirrors, and the series of tests in SCP-093-T2 to ascertain the destinations reached through this travel. The original document is something to behold. It is very much of its time and quite old, from an older age in the Foundation, simply given the formatting that we see. For one, it's far more exacting in its containment procedures. Item SCP-093 is to be kept on a silver-lined mirror on a 0.3 by 0.23 meter, 1 foot by 9 inch pedestal at least 1.22 meters, 4 feet, off the ground floor in containment cell block, redacted. Object is not to be contained in areas exceeding 3.66 by 3.05, 12 by 10 feet, nor placed on mahogany, pine, cherry, or aluminum pedestals above or below level 1 of containment cell block, redacted. Object can be handled safely, albeit gently, without consequences. Tests and consequences thereof involving containment conditions can be viewed in section B35-1 of the attached report. Description. Object was found on the shore of the Red Sea, 30th of January 1968, emitting a low sigh and a dim blue gleam. Its color has since turned into an orange mix of red, only emitting a hum of varying volume, whilst in the presence of female examiners of ages between 34 and 41. SCP-093 resembled the documented blue for 54-34 at 123 on 26th of April 1986. Coincidentally, when the body of 194-9834 was discovered in research facility, redacted. Ties between 194 and 9834 and SCP-093 remain inconclusive, and effects of prolonged exposure to 093 remain unknown, except for infrequent reports of periods of calmness, and in the case of 242-0049, as periodic waves of depression, loss of balance, and thoughts of suicide. These feelings have reportedly not exceeded 11 days in duration. Objects seem to react to the presence of 242-0056 by turning light violet for no more than 2 minutes and 9 seconds, as documented on 12th of March 1993. Effects of this reaction remain unknown. Additional notes. Origins of 093 remain unknown, and documents of recovery of 093 have since been destroyed in a fire in research facility, redacted. 090 on the 9th of December 1989. Reports on the feelings of researchers who handled 093 have remained inconsequential since 19th of April 1995. SCP-093-T1, the Containment Tests. Testing of SCP-093 against conditions set forth for existing containment procedures to assess viability of continuing such containment, beginning with changing the type of mirror used as a position of rest. Mirror surface, brass frame, retail-grade mirror. SCP-093 rests without activity when placed on the mirror. This test alone removes the need for costly silver or wooden containment systems. Standard grade table. SCP-093 turns upright and begins to roll across the table's surface in one direction, making a U-turn and rolling to the other, completing an oval shape and repeating this action until a mirror is brought into the vicinity of it, at which time SCP-093 rolls toward the mirror and lays flatways against it, sliding towards the center. It is noted that despite the grainy feel of SCP-093, it does not mark the mirror in any fashion while moving across it. 2 mirrors at either end of a standard grade table. SCP-093 gravitates toward the closer mirror regardless of orientation and makes no distinction between different types of mirrors, favoring a factor of distance above all else and choosing the mirror to move to. A mirror held by a person and moved around. SCP-093 follows the mirror as it moves, gaining speed until maximum velocity of blank is reached. At any velocity, the impact of SCP-093 against a mirrored surface results in no damage to either object. I am presuming it also results in no damage to the person holding the object. A person holding SCP-093, placing it on a mirror. This test was accidental, the result of one of the staff tripping another after some debate about who would be covering the lunch tab. As a result of the behavior of the researchers, it was discovered that a person holding SCP-093 and placing it against a mirror will, in fact, move into the mirror. Addendum. Containment testing discontinued after establishing that SCP-093 requires only a mirror to rest inert. Testing on human interaction with mirrors while holding SCP-093 authorized by Dr. Redacted. SCP-093-T2, the Mirror Test. Testing Protocols. Subjects testing SCP-093 must wear a Class 3 buckle harness strapped to the chest and attached to a tension pulley system allowing for 300 meters, or roughly 1,000 feet, of movement. Additional spools may be added to extend movement if necessary. The clasps connecting these spools must be high grade and capable of withstanding applied force of 0.2 tons. A field kit containing the following should be standard issue for testing of SCP-093. 1. Wrist-mounted light source with 3 hours lifespan and additional power sources providing up to 6 additional hours. 4. Half-liter water bottles with water. 4. MREs of any type plus 2 plain granola bars. Chocolate chips are allowed. 1 standard issue Beretta 9mm firearm with 24 rounds of ammunition, loaded. This is not to be issued until the subject is passed into a mirror using SCP-093 and should be given under armed supervision, ensuring that the subject passes through entirely. This item is to be requisitioned first upon the subject's return, and subject to be made aware of this before leaving line of sight within SCP-093's mirror. 1 standard issue field knife. The subject is not to be made aware of this item and must find it on his own within the kit. The subject must also be attached to a video system with a camera mounted on the subject's head or shoulders. The video device should be cable-based and allow for the same length of travel as the return system. Wireless cameras have shown mixed results and should only be used in testing conditions where SCP-093 is currently known color. New colors must be tested using a wired feed. During testing, the color of SCP-093 must be recorded, as well as history of the subject in terms of their incarceration, to identify how SCP-093 determines the color to assume. A link appears to be connected to guilt or lack thereof in the subject's psyche. The attached test results should be read in order. So, as you can probably see, the image that I have on screen accompanying this entry doesn't seem to be at all fitting for the object that we've been described. Well, let's take a look at these various tests, go into the exploration logs, and see exactly what was uncovered. SCP-093, the Blue Test. Mirror Test 1, color blue. Subject is D-Class, 20-38-4, male, 34 years of age, strong physique. Subject background shows instance of murder, attempted suicide. Subject is cooperative in all steps of testing. Subject entered the mirror while holding SCP-093, which emitted a blue color. Outside technicians observed that the mirror retained a true reflection until subject had completely passed into it, at which time the view had changed to an outdoor landscape, heavily tinged in blue. The video feed follows in attached media. The camera activates, flickers to view. Subject is looking out over the same field reported by technicians. Looks like typical lowland plains. Everything has a heavy blue tinge overlapping the normal colors. No discernible landmarks visible as subject pans. View left to right. Only grass, weeds, and a breeze moving the taller grass. No trees, no living beings visible. Subject moves forward as instructed, traveling for approximately 500 steps before something becomes visible. A patch of the land up ahead is barren and grass can be seen, dying as subject approaches it. Approximately 300 steps forward, subject is standing before a hole in the ground. The hole has been dug using unknown tools of primitive origin. Welcome to the stream, Robin. Yes, we are looking at Yuletide exploration logs of SCP-093. If you would like to get caught up, we have only just begun the blue exploration log. Subject moves forward as instructed. Sorry, I must find my place. There we are. Yule logs are Keter class. I can agree with that. Pulley system engaged and the camera suffers a light shudder. Subject is instructed to enter the hole, and after mild protesting agrees to do so. There is no apparent method of descent, such as ladder or rope. Subject relies entirely on his own hands and the pulley system to slow the descent. Approximately 100 meters of cable is used before a bottom is reached. Light source provided and field kit activated 50 meters down when outside sources became unreliable. Sweeping gestures of the light reveal nothing more than dirt even at the bottom of the hole. The subject moves forward with the assistance of the light source. Asked about the blue tinge, the subject expresses confusion and says there is no such tinge from his perspective and never was. Light is visible down the passage and 150 meters of cable has been used. Out of the camera's eye, sound is recorded of the firearm being prepared. When questioned about these actions, subject states justified precaution and moves forward. Welcome to the stream, Kirby. The tunnel turns from bare dirt to concrete enclosure. Subject complains of a stench. The light source is revealed to be ceiling light fixtures, a series of which, with less than a quarter broken, while the others function. A series of 6 doors, 3 to a side, span before the camera view, with a 7th door visible at the end of the corridor that has been blocked by what looks like generic metal shelving debris. Debris shows sign of rusting and is typical of retail store units, suggesting other human presences. Subject requested to try doors in whatever order he chooses. Subject tries first door on right. Door is locked, does not open. Second door tries to open, but does not budge. Unlocked, but blocked. Closing second door. Third door is tried, same results as first. Going up the other side. The third door does open fully, and light is bright in the room. Portable light switched off at this time, as the subject pans camera to inspect the room. The room is bare, with no contents, but the walls are filthy. Subject states material on walls isn't dirt, but he can't identify it. It seems to resemble melted plastic, but is brown in color rather than black. The door is closed. Second door on the left has no handle, does not move when pushed. The hole where the handle was is plugged by unknown material. All doors are shaped in such a way that nothing can visibly escape from the sides, and space for movement is too thin to look through even at the ground level. First door on the left is locked, but part of the key is present in the lock from stem to the ridges. The back was broken off. With effort, the subject manipulates the key to open the door and immediately begins coughing, complaining of a stench. The walls of the room are clean, as is the floor. Ceiling is coated in the same strange brown material as the third room. In this room, there is a makeshift cot made from aged blankets with a pillow, a wooden crate containing open boxes of what appears to have been foodstuffs language appears on the video as squiggles. However, subject states they simply read cereal. A second crate in the room contains what appears to be empty water bottles that have dried out. A book lays next to the cot, closed, with no title or identifying marks. On the wall is what appears to be clipped articles, but language cannot be read. Subject asked to remove clippings for retrieval. All articles, but one, crumble at the touch due to age. The intact article is put in a field sample container and seems the most recent compared to the others. Asked to investigate the book, the subject begins to move toward it. Audio on the tape goes strange and high-pitched screeching noise like grinding metal dominates all communication for 3.5 seconds. The subject has not touched the book still, and when the noise stops, the subject asks Control to repeat requests. Control made no requests during that time as headsets were removed. Subject advised to leave room and notes that the door has begun closing slowly on its own and if left alone will close. Subject advised to leave door alone and to investigate the door on the right. Careful review of the following 10 seconds of tape shows that as the camera pans, a figure is visible at the end of the tunnel where the 7th door is. The door is open, only enough for a face to be seen through a crack just before the door silently closes. No detail can be seen. Subject investigates the second door on the right with no mention of anything seen out of the ordinary. The door, when pushed against, moves, and after repeated bashings, moves enough to view inside at an angle. A cork board is visible with more articles attached to it. The top of a box of cereal can be seen on the floor, and what appears to be a hand laying palm up. Subject closes the door and pans camera past door 7, which remains closed. Seeing nowhere else to explore, subject requested to return. Subject poses no protest and complains of an ever-increasing stench. As the subject returns back down the tunnel, his camera feed does not change or show anomaly, but Control reports a sudden surge in cable movement, pulling an additional 100 meters of cable through before going slack again and then tightening. Video feed shows subject descending the tunnel slowly while Control attempts to verify integrity of the pulley system. Subject requested to stop ascent but states he is not climbing. The rope is pulling him up. Panic sets in on both sides and subject informed to ready firearm. Upon reaching the top of the hole, nothing is visible on camera and the subject reports nothing has changed in the landscape. Then begins a return trip following the path of the cable. Traveling for approximately 900 steps, subject asks how much cable he has used. Control admits they are unsure due to complications, but subject traveled in a straight line to reach the hole, so it should be a straight line back. Subject becomes concerned when he states that more cable is visible now, moving at a 90-degree angle away from a point in the ground. Subject pans camera around full circle slowly. On film behind subject, a crowd of 37 countable figures stand silently. Features are unidentifiable, and they are lacking the blue tinge that dominates the landscape. Panic breaks in Control again, but subject notes only oddity as being the cable having an angled path. Subject tugs his end of the cable. It is taut and does not move. Control begins to reel in the pulley system, and slack rapidly winds. Watching the angled cable movement can be seen as grass is disturbed further down the angled portion. From the reeling in, then the line vibrates as it meets resistance and emits a twang from the recoil. Subject's camera pans back along the length of cable, which now appears to slowly be allowing more slack again, before suddenly all slack is returned and the pulley system begins again. Control requests subject return following cable path, and screams are caught on the audio with panic from the subject. 5 shots are fired as subject aims pistol at something not visible on the camera. Control reports being able to see subject running toward point of origin while the camera shows wire disappearing into a point floating in the air. As the subject passes this point, all cable is now in the pulley system, and camera films only the floor. Control reports that the mirror took approximately 5 seconds to return to a reflection of SCP-093 remained blue in color until 1 hour after being recovered. A vile-smelling fluid was present on the subject's clothes around his hands when firearm was recovered. This fluid dried quickly and was deemed insignificant of study due to the lack of quality sample. Control personnel monitoring the mirror state having seen a massive human being crawling on the ground. easily 50 times the size of a normal person with no facial features and a very short arm reach, pulling itself toward the mirror before it returned to a reflection. Due to proximity, fine details could not be made, but at least one observer noted the being appeared to have been shot from the marks in the otherwise smooth and featureless face. Field test kit recovered from the subject containing a newspaper article that reads "Data expunged" and was filed as item "Data expunged." Our next test is the green test. Subject is D54493, female, 23 years of age, average physique. Subject's background shows instance of grand theft auto and second-degree murder of 2 children during escape with vehicle. Subject is cooperative in all steps of testing. Subject entered the provided mirror while holding SCP-093, which emitted a green color. Outside technicians observed that the mirror retained a true reflection until subject had completely passed into it, at which time the view changed into a farming landscape, heavily tinged in green, similar to the first test. The video feed follows in attached media. Camera activates. Flickers to view. Subject is looking out over the same farmland reported by technicians. All green through video feed are deeper in green tinge overlays the normal colors of objects similar to the blue tinge in Test 1. No landmarks from Test 1 are discernible as subject pans camera over area. Present is a field, long abandoned, in the middle of which stands the remains of a scarecrow of unknown design. Fragments left are rotted and torn. Nothing grows in the tilled land. A farmhouse is visible to the right of the field. Large, 2 stories, a basement shelter entrance is visible at one end. Subject prepares her sidearm immediately and is asked by control to relax before proceeding, her heavy breathing dominating the audio feed. Subject takes a few minutes and announces that she's fine, then proceeds as directed to walk the perimeter of the farmhouse. Children's bicycles, 2, a boy's and a girl's, lay against the house near the shelter doors. One of the doors to the shelter lay in the grass, torn from the entrance as evidenced by splintering wood. On the stairs lay clothes arranged in descending order, shoes to shirt going down them, belonging to a boy. Subjects begin screaming at Control, asking if this is some sort of sick joke. Control assures her they have never seen this environment either, and to please calm down. Subject takes several minutes to regain herself before continuing. It is unknown if SCP-093 is linking the subject's past with their landscape. After several minutes, the subject agrees to continue. Communication to subject is muted and conversation of Control, making commentary about subject's jury attitude, make up audio for 1.5 minutes. Communication restored as subject reaches the bottom of the stairs. The cellar of the farmhouse is unremarkable and typical. Several wooden shelves line the far wall, containing unidentified canned substances. Broken light fixtures sway gently from support beams. Camera is panned across the basement slowly. No evidence of footprints are visible, and the basement can be assumed to have been abandoned for some time. The subject begins to comment about a stench. As the subject pans the area, a metal hatch is visible in the ground, similar to a bulkhead on a submarine with a turn handle. The subject remarks that the smell is at its worst around the hatch, and the dirt around the hatch is noted as being clumped and clay-like. The handle of the hatch is old, and the paint chipped. Subject coerced into turning the handle, which, when fully turned, opened the hatch. Subject begins coughing at the release of assumed old, stale air. When the camera is tilted to view down the hatch, it is a white, concrete tunnel, similar to the one found in the blue experiment, but in much better condition. Subject asks to descend the ladder and close the hatch behind her. After some convincing, the subject agrees to descend, but does not close the hatch. Overlooked concerns about severing the pulley return system in doing so are acknowledged. Descent down the ladder and trip to the farmhouse has consumed approximately 53 meters of cable when bottom is reached. The inside of the hatch appears to be a bunker ill-suited to long-term usage. It is spacious, about half the size of the actual cellar itself, containing 3 bunks, 1 for a couple and 2 for single use. Several boxes of food similar to those found during Blue, marked as cereal, fill a waste container near the hatch bottom. On the beds are two skeletons, and on the floor is a third, lying next to which is a simple six-shooter revolver containing no ammunition. 3 spent casings are across the floor near the gun. On the other side of the skeleton is a bound book in good condition. This is retrieved and placed into a field kit container upon request. The gun is left alone per request from control. The subject examines more of the bunker, focusing on a desk where a newspaper has been cut and is in good condition. The clipped articles are recovered using a field kit container. Little else of interest to be brought back is in the bunker as the cameras pan around. Trash bags containing clothing, a few children's toys resembling popular 1950s era products are lined against the wall. Subject is requested to leave the bunker, then sharply asked to wait by a control technician who directs the camera view to an area near the exiting doorway to the hatch. Closer inspection as subject moves in finds that a small area has been fitted with what appears to be an Ethernet jack, the cover of which has been forced slightly away from the wall by a strange amber-like substance. Subject refuses to touch or collect a sample, commenting that it stinks so bad that if they want it, they can come and get it themselves. Control declines, and the subject leaves the bunker. As subject grips the ladder to leave, the camera pans up for a moment, and at the top of the tunnel, a humanoid figure is seen peering down. Control asks the subject to confirm the figure. Subject states, "Nothing is up there," and begins to climb. Figure draws out of camera view after first rung is touched by subject, who ascends without incident. At the top of the tunnel, no other life is seen. Nothing has been disturbed. Subject insists nothing was there and closes the hatch, then immediately vomits. Subject coughs and uses a supplied water bottle to gargle, then freezes and asks if Control is hearing that. Control reports no audio. Subject approaches the cellar hatch cautiously with firearm drawn and lifts her head just enough so the camera can view an outside area. In the distance, approximately 700 meters from the farm, 2 massive humanoid beings are crawling across the landscape. The entities do not notice the subject, who remains quiet, but whose drawn sidearm is visibly trembling. Subject requested to remain still and silent as beings move. They are featureless, facing at an angle, moving across the field of vision, so the faces are only visible for a few moments. During this time, it is clear they have no facial features. The arms they use to drag themselves are short at times and long at others, stretching out to varying lengths each time they move. There is no rear area to the beings. All bodily design appears to end at the torso. The 2 creatures take approximately 10 minutes to disappear into the distance before the subject begins to panic and begs to return. Request declined. Subject instructed to enter the home from the cellar and not to leave the home under any circumstances. The first floor is entered through a hatch in the ceiling floor that opens with rusty creaks that cause subject to pause for 37 seconds before continuing upward and entering a kitchen. A heavy layer of dust coats all items in the kitchen. The refrigerator is left open. All food is spoiled. Adjacent to the kitchen is a living area that subject enters slowly. There is a recliner, a couch, and a television, all of 1950s style design. In the recliner is a laptop whose case also resembles 1950s decor and is coated with heavy dust. Opening the laptop reveals the last moments of its operating system. Faithful OS, leaving a standby mode and immediately shutting off. Laptop has no external power source and will not power back on. When asked to recover laptop, it brings the cushion of the recliner with it, the 2 stuck together. Subject advised to leave the laptop where it is. The inside door leaving the home is nailed shut with thick wood planks. No attempt made to interact with these. Camera view pans to a staircase leading upstairs. Subject ascends the stairs without being asked, and the stairs remain silent to control surprise. When the subject reaches the top of the stairs, a hallway with 2 doors is viewed, one on each side, and at the end of the hall, a dumbwaiter is inlaid into the wall. Subject opens the door on the left on her own, which opens to a master bedroom. The bed is neatly made, but the wardrobe next to it is thrown open and clothes are everywhere on the floor. Subject finds laid out on the bed several pieces of jewelry and is informed to leave them. Subject begins to protest, then comments they stink and leaves them alone, promptly leaving the room. Subject is asked to open the second door. The second door opens and gives a view of a shared children's bedroom. Obviously, boy and girl given the types of toys and clothes scattered on the floor. There is also a window which subject approaches and wipes with a curtain to clear dust. Subject requests to move camera to window and does so. The farmland is visible and approximately 40 kilometers from it, at best guess, a city. As the camera starts to draw back, it pans down and films the area around the house. Approximately 300 figures, similar to those from the footage captured during Blue Test, are visible around the home, all staring up. Subject asked to confirm figures, but states nothing is there. Subject requested to return and quickly agrees. Egress from the house is uneventful. The pulley system shows no erratic behavior. As subject returns to point of pulley wire's origin, a loud groaning noise causes the picture to reverberate. Technicians at control report they were able to hear the noise and experience the vibration. Subject returns through the point of origin without investigation, and mirror returns to reflective surface. SCP-093 relinquished. Video ends. Return newspaper fragments filed as redacted. The next is the Violet test. Subject is D84930, male, 21 years of age, average physique. Subject's background shows instance of second-degree murder of a police officer during a drug bust. Normally, this crime, while severe, would not qualify a person for a sentence that would end up with us, but the murder of the officer was especially brutal and excessive violence was used. This subject was uncooperative and had to be reminded that his cooperation would only benefit him. Subject entered the provided mirror while holding SCP-093, which emitted a violet color. Outside technicians observed that the mirror retained a true reflection until the subject had completely passed into it, at which time it changed to a cityscape, urban, lightly tinged in purple, similar to the first test. The video feed follows in attached media. One moment as I take a quick sip of my drink to refresh my throat. The camera flickers to life and pans around the area. Subject is in what appears to be a modern downtown district, similar to a city like New York. The streets are mostly bare, except for a few cars of unknown make or model. These cars look highly advanced and streamlined. Subject attempts to look into the car windows without being instructed to, but backs away, remarking there is a rank-ass stank coming from the areas around most of them. Subject is persuaded to move closer to one car, and does so with coughing, wiping off a window which is covered in dirt. The inside of the car appears to be completely filled with a strange brown matter. There is nothing at all visible other than the brown matter. Two other cars produce the same results, however a fourth vehicle seems more recent than the others, and the insides are immaculate. The doors to this vehicle are unlocked, and the subject quickly gets inside, then shuts the doors. Subject is chastised for this behavior by control, who reminds him his lifeline is nothing more than a cable, which is sturdy enough that closing the door does not injure it, but they cannot recover a person in motion. Subject argues with control over this issue and pans to the camera across the dashboard, pointing out he couldn't drive away even if he tried. The dashboard is void of any recognizable controls. No ignition, no steering. It has several small blank screens that are theorized to be a GPS system. Subject remains in the car while control discusses how to proceed, since the city landscape is far larger than the previous test destinations. Control debates this issue, while the subject stares around the cityscape from the car. During one pan, a face is clearly seen staring into the car, eyes watching the subject. However, this was not noticed until post-test footage review. Subject made no comment regarding this entity at any point. Control shortly after informs subject to remain where he is, and an escort team is dispatched through the mirror to join him. There we go. A team of 4 armed personnel is sent through the mirror and proceeds to subject's location. Subject is then instructed to remove his harness, which is recovered. This subject's video feed then ends and is replaced by a wireless unit used by the escort team. The video quality on this unit is subject to more interference, but in order to mark the mirror exit to receiver system is placed through the mirror. Subject leaves the car and now travels with the escort team. Given the myriad of possible options, they are instructed to simply move to the closest building and attempt to enter it. This building has etched glass doors bearing the name XEA Research Partners Incorporated, and the doors are ajar. A magnetic lock system is present but has lost power. Team enters the building and main lobby. This area resembles a stereotypical corporate lobby. There is a C-shaped reception desk with a chair pushed far from it as if it was left in a hurry. A PC terminal is at the desk as well. The team approaches the desk, and the camera bearer is instructed to examine the PC. The unit does appear to have power, and Faithful OS appears on the screen requesting a login and password. A keyboard is present, but is remarkably slim, with touch-sensitive keys rather than pressed keys, mechanical keys. After one failed attempt, the lock screen replies that maximum attempts have been exceeded, and the PC turns off. No actual power or touch button can be located, so the team moves forward. Harsh security, I will say. Behind the reception desk are 2 elevator doors, one to the left and one to the right, with similar touch sense keys. The elevator on the left is broken, the door open, and the shaft empty. The elevator on the right appears functional and has power. Without a clear destination, the team is instructed to proceed to the highest floor to get a lay of the city. All floors appear to be accessible, with the highest being 114. In reality, 112 has 13 and 113 are missing from the keypad. Journey up the elevator is uneventful during this time. The elevator does appear to take longer as it passes by 13 and then 113 suggests that the entire floor was built and nothing put on it. At 114, the door opens and the team enters a large lounge-type area. There are many couches with dust on them. A widescreen, apparently LCD TV of approximately 60-plus inches in size dominates the wall in front of them with no power. A series of windows are opened, allowing in sunlight, at the far end of which the team proceeds and angles the camera outside. The view of the city is astonishing. This building is one of the tallest visible, but certainly not alone in its stature. The city below is gray and silent, no evidence of life at this altitude. Some buildings in the city have a strange brown growth that appears to have been splashed against them as if a gelatinous mass was flung and then seeped down before hardening. Other buildings have floors where the glass has been shattered and the same brown substance is seeping out the edges. One member of the team calls the camera bearer to the windows on the other side. From the other side of the building, the city edges can be seen. Attention is pointed toward an expressway that encircles the city, upon which crawls another of the large half-body humanoids, dragging itself with its elastic arms as witnessed in previous tests. It travels the highway, then moves out of sight. The team returns to the elevator and notes that a button has already been activated for floor 74. No one has approached the elevator, so the team agrees to travel to this floor. On the 74th floor, the doors open and reveal a waiting area to what appears to be a doctor's office. At the reception desk, there is a sign-in sheet with a series of names and dates. The dates on the sign-in sheet all carry the year 1953. A PC at the receptionist area is on and functioning at a user desktop. The background for the PC is a large set of praying hands with the word Faithful OS under them. On the desktop are a series of folders with years on them containing files that, when clicked using the center button of the mouse, open to a word viewer. All files appear to be appointment information. On the desk is a notepad titled, "From the Desk of Dr. Borziski, Blessed Purificationist." The door to the doctor's area is sketched with the same name and title, as well as a crucifix. Opening this door leads to a white, dust-free hallway that has 2 examination rooms and a key-coded door at the end. The examination rooms are unremarkable and typical of any doctor's office. All medicine cabinets are empty. A small amount of C4 is placed at the lock to the key-coded door at the request of control, and then blown, forcing the door open. The area it opens into is much larger than the reception area itself and seems to contain a series of large containment capsules. There are a total of 6 of these capsules. 2 are broken, and a brownish amber material coats the floor coming from them. 1 is empty. The last 3 have nude humans floating in them with breathing masks. Attached to the front of these tubes are medical charts showing vital signs and conditions. For symptoms, the charts explain in somewhat awkward English ailments that seem more like flaws of personality or character, or just incidents that have occurred with the patient. Control asks for a zoom of one of the patient's pages on the chart. After focusing, it reads, Citizen Jennifer McZerka did suffer a lapse of the heart that did lead her to lay with her neighbor twice upon nights of her husband's departure from their home. Patient did submit herself into the Lord's and our hands for cleansing of mind and body. Prayer administered by High Father Wolakin, and patient submitted to a 3-day period in the Lord's tears to cleanse her system, then released in good spirits. The topmost page reads, Citizen Alberius Farafan struck out at a High Father during a sermon, blaspheming that the Lord's tears did turn his daughter to be unright in mind and heart, thusly laying blame for her whorish activities at the feet of the High Father and his blessing. With no proof of these blasphemies, the forgiving judge and the punishing judge did agree that Alberius Farafan should bathe in the Lord's tears himself for a week to be cleansed of mind and soul, thus to prove his daughter's ways are fault of not the Father's hands, and to give him peace of self. Subject, who has been traveling quietly with the escort team, now begins to panic. The camera pans to focus on him, and he is surrounded by entities similar to those witnessed in the first 2 tests. Escort team reports in that subject is having a panic attack, but Control requests them to stand still and wait. The subject screams at the entities, which are denied to exist by Team Commander, stating the subject is alone in the corner. Control requests that 1 team member be dispatched to approach and recover the subject. The escort team member approaches the subject as ordered. On the video, the figures part to make a pathway for the approaching member, who lifts the subject to his feet and brings him out of the corner. Figures on video are then seen closing ranks to close the path. The subject is lifted to his feet by an arm and escorted through the figures that close their ranks when the subject is moved. They remain steadfastly staring at the subject no matter where he moves to. Control requests the team to return now. The team returns to leave. Before leaving, a member mentions something noticed at the reception desk, a binder labeled The Lord's Tears. Control requests binder be returned as well, and it is stowed into subject's field kit. The team returns to the elevator and returns to the ground floor. Upon leaving the building, subject points down the street toward the direction of the entry point. The camera pans to a section of raised expressway across which one of the large torsos is crawling slowly. The entity turns its featureless head to look at the escort team, raises its head to the sky, and emits a bellowing sound. Team leader issues the order to move, heading for the spot marked by the wireless video receiver. The creature on the expressway extends an arm down that stretches to touch the ground before the camera moves to the port. All team members, save 1, move through the entry point. Subject moves through entry point, and mirror returns to reflective surface. SCP-093 is dropped by the subject, who panics and tries to fight his way out of the room. Subject is terminated by the team leader after he draws the field kit pistol. Team leader requests portal be reopened, but it takes several minutes to find someone who can hold SCP-093 and generate a similar color. When a matching color is displayed and applied to the mirror, the video receiver is visible, and all individuals report a horrific smell. Team leader moves to the entryway with control person redacted. The uniform and possessions of the escort team member who is left behind are present and recovered, but the member himself is nowhere to be seen and does not respond to shouts. Member assumed KIA, and wireless receiver recovered. Control and escort team return through entry point, and the mirror returns to reflective surface. Later review of the recovered camera shows escort member redacted grasping at the air where the entry point should be, then turning to look up at an oversized torso. A brown gel seems to drip off the creature as it moves, that disappears shortly after being dislodged as if evaporating. Several shots are fired at the creature's face with the automatic weapon carried by Redacted, that land in the face of the creature, causing a spray of less viscous brown liquid to pour forth from the wounds. Redacted screams obscenities as the face of the creature descends upon him, and the camera is pushed to the ground. Camera feed remains dark for approximately 65 seconds before light comes back, and the camera films the creature crawling back the expressway and pulling itself onto it, then crawling in the direction it was originally headed. Redacted, believed to have been absorbed by the creature and perhaps digested. This may have been an example of how these unknown entities feed by direct contact with living material. Further study is recommended to be avoided on the issue. Return ledger filed as redacted. We have 2 more tests, and then we can quickly go over the recovered materials before moving on. There we go. Yes. Okay. The yellow test. D-class subjects no longer authorized for testing. Testing focus has been shifted to data collection after analyzing the articles brought back from the previous 3 tests to better understand the fate of the world accessed by SCP-093 and determine if safeguards or practices are required for our own world. Analysis of the brown fluid on the clothing of the lost escort team member Redacted has been filed with other recovered articles. Dr. Redacted has volunteered for this test, as out of the possible candidates, he was able to cause SCP-093 to undergo a new color change. There is no evidence Dr. Redacted's background of any illegal or criminal behavior, nor of any psychological problems. When presented to the mirror, the view changed to that of a cubicle office environment. For this test, Dr. Redacted has opted to use the wireless video system and forego the pulley return system, stating he was confident he would be safe, as none of the torso creatures have been witnessed within a building where the mirror's destination showed. Video feed commences after Dr. Redacted has crossed the mirror. As with prior tests, SCP-093's current color, yellow, tinges all material. Too far. You should always use the pulley system. Never don't. The camera flickers to life and pans across a series of plain white cubicle constructs. Approximately 30 are visible. At the far end, from the point of entry, is an office module built into the wall with frosted glass walls and a glass door. Dr. Redacted approaches this door and investigates the etched writing on it. Senior Manager, Stanley Millimitz. The door is unlocked. Dr. Redacted enters the office and examines the desk. A coffee cup is on the desk, a dark brown stain covering half of the inside as the liquid evaporated. There is a donut on a plate, which Dr. Redacted picks up and lobs at a wall. On impact, it thumps like a rock and falls. A file cabinet in the corner of the room draws Dr. Redacted's attention, and he goes through each shelf one at a time, stopping in the second drawer and taking out a file, then going back to the first and taking out 2 others. Continuing to the third and fourth drawers, he withdraws 4 additional files and spreads them all out on the desk. The files are blue filing folders, and he points with his finger and camera at a symbol on each of praying hands, stating aloud for the camera that all other files are stored in yellow folders. The blue folders are placed in his field kit. Camera attention is turned to the PC on the desk that is logged in and functional. Dr. Redacted comments aloud, wondering where these devices are getting their power from, as he has noticed no power outlets. This PC's desktop contains the logo of Faithful OS and even has sounds, clicks of the mouse followed by soft hymn-like hums, an opening of icons followed by angelic bells. The PC fails to yield any useful information to Dr. Redacted, who abandons it and leaves the office. Sounds when you click on something should have been the first clue. Approaching the end of the office floor, Dr. Redacted presses a button on the wall for the elevator and enters, finding he is on the 34th floor of a building, having an unusual number scheme. The keypad layout goes from -115 to 115, and includes all floors. Before pressing a floor button, Dr. Redacted requests that the wireless video transponder be moved to the elevator and placed with a construction cone to mark the entry point. A second transponder unit is placed outside the elevator, and Control is instructed to recover the second unit and seal the test chamber should something happen to him. Then, when all is arranged, he presses the button for floor -115. The descent down the elevator is long, consuming 15 minutes. During this time, the camera experiences one malfunction where the image jerks and turns to snow, restoring to show 14 other figures in the elevator with Dr. Redacted. As video pans around, all of whom move as he moves to allow him space. They remain for 35 seconds when the camera flickers to snow and returns. Dr. Redacted is now alone in the elevator. Dancing is assumed by the ducks and sways of the video feed. Dr. Redacted pauses to comment on a rising stench coming from below. At this point, the elevator has reached floor -108. Dr. Redacted presses -110 to interrupt the descent down and exits when that floor is reached. The elevator doors open to an enclosed observation deck with several PCs and chairs. All PCs appear to have power. The ceiling to this deck is also glass, and above it another deck is visible. Dr. Redacted approaches the monitoring stations and checks one of the PC screens. On the screen is the Faithful OS logo and a video feed toggling between 4 different views. The first view is a room of tubes similar to those found in Test Violet, which number in the thousands. The second view is a closer-up view of these tubes as a camera glides in front of each to monitor the contents. All tubes the camera passes by are broken. The third view is facing the opposite direction as a camera glides vertically, checking each visible observation station. A total of 10 can be counted, and Dr. Redacted is visible as the camera passes by his own station. Looking up, a hovering camera unit with no visible means of propulsion glides past him. The fourth view shows the ground floor below the observation deck, where a single astonishingly large torso is crawling in circles, bumping into walls and changing directions. From the camera feed, the creature's estimated size is 6 stories. Returning attention to the contents of the PC, Dr. Redacted moves the video log aside to see a simple text editor that was hidden behind it. A printout of this text was recovered and filed into the field kit. The printout directed Dr. Redacted to a safe on floor 54 and provided the combination. Dr. Redacted leaves the observation deck and proceeds to 54 without an event, arriving on a cubicle office floor. He proceeds to the desk mentioned in the document and found a safe hidden beneath the desk undisturbed. The combination provided opens the safe and reveals a notebook filed in the field kit and a peculiar revolver that has been returned as redacted, in addition to the 24 rounds of ammo found with it. Dr. Redacted proceeds back to the elevator without event and returns to 34. Given the sheer number of floors available to explore and the vital information obtained from the observation deck, the test is considered over and equipment is retrieved. Before returning through the entry point, Dr. Redacted investigates a terminal nearby that has power and finds it shows the exact same screen the one on -110 shows. It is theorized that the author of the note installed a network virus to propagate it through the building, so any PC on the network would be found and the information discovered. Dr. Redacted returns through the entry point and the mirror returns to a reflected surface. All materials filed with other SCP-093 recovered materials. Analysis of redacted and the ammunition for it postponed for a reason that it would require deconstruction of one of the rounds, and they may be beneficial until testing of SCP-093 is resolved. Video ends. And now we're moving to the last test. I would understand if this may seem slightly confusing as we have moved through all of this, but trust me, it will all come to make sense, and I will help it make sense if it still doesn't. We move over to the red test. SCP-093 distributed among staff until a new color could be generated by contact with it. Service Technician Redacted was able to cause SCP-093 take on a fierce red hue and glow, much brighter than the object's normal color. Redacted agreed to assist with the test of SCP-093. Per Dr. Redacted's request, redacted, given to technician redacted for use in this test. I'm going to have to figure out a different way to say that. When applied to the mirror for the test, SCP-093 generates an unknown environment. No color tinge appears present on the displayed destination, which is comprised of red stonework. Technician redacted enters the mirror, and video capture begins. The video flickers to life, and Technician redacted, known hereafter as Subject, is viewing a large cylindrical pillar that is rotating on its own. Object is of unknown height and appears to be 1.8 meters in width. Holes are distributed throughout the object at seemingly random intervals. On occasion, a beam of white light is emitted from one of these holes. Turning of the camera finds that the beams are connected to a multitude of objects similar to SCP-093 that are part of the room's wall. The room turns out to also be cylindrical in shape, with countless copies of SCP-093. Subject turns back to the entry point and finds it is a section of the wall that is missing its copy of SCP-093, presumably the one carried with the subject. Other sections of the wall on inspection are also found to be missing their copies, leading to speculation that this may be some sort of central array. Subject finds a ladder in the floor while examining the room and proceeds down it at Control's request. The ladder exits into a large, clean room full of computer equipment that appears antiquated compared to previously encountered equipment. Large computers running on reel-to-reels are clicking and spinning at various locations. A light bulb of unknown meaning turns on for 10 seconds, then turns off. A large CRT monitor is displaying single words in 8 colors at roughly 5-second intervals, while observed the words clean, unclean, clean, clean, lost, unclean flash on the screen. Proceeding through the room, it ends in a large glass window as another observation deck. This deck looks out over another series of tubes as witnessed before, but far fewer and filled with a blue liquid. What appears to be electrical current dances over many of the tubes at erratic intervals. At least 5, at first glance, are empty and broken. At the observation window, a keyboard is present on a pedestal awaiting a selection to be made. The options available on the screen are Tube Status, which waits for a numerical input, Reports, Situation X549, Situation X550, Evacuation Log, Bullshit, Agent Redacted's Report, and Facility Fire Plan. Video expunged. All sections that generated text were transcribed by Subject and verified by a control member who passed through the portal to recover them. This process took approximately 2 hours, and the video feed was deleted to condense this report. Record documents are filed as redacted. Video interrupted. Control lost contact with Subject approximately 30 minutes after departure of Control Tech. Subject was asked to remain in area and observe the machinery and the containment room to make observations and for debriefing. The SCP-093 mirror portal returned to a reflective surface prematurely, and all video contact with Subject was lost. Control was unable to reestablish contact due to SCP-093 being across the mirror. A time lapse of 1 minute and 48 seconds was recorded before mirror portal reestablished itself and Subject returned through the portal. Subject appeared to be in good health and condition despite the time loss, but spoke little. During immediate debriefing, Subject underwent sudden convulsions and medical staff was alerted. While attempting to subdue Subject, he displayed enhanced strength and used Redacted to shoot one of the debriefing staff, killing them. Guards shot Subject once with a sidearm, in the heart and once in the chest, but Subject did not fall. All staff evacuated the room, and a second shot was fired by Subject, which missed. A more heavily armed team entered the debriefing room and used automatic weapons to dispatch the Subject. Reports confirmed that Subject did not bleed when shot, but instead leaked a green-brown substance that seemed to be a mix of a solution observed in some containment tubes and the material recovered during Test 3. All further SCP-093 tests have been discontinued, while review of materials recovered is in effect. A secondary tape recording device was found to have activated in the field kit after loss of video feed, and its contents have been filed with the other recovered materials. All recovered materials from SCP-093 testing are Level 4 classification. Release must be approved by no fewer than 2 Level 4 personnel. We'll now be looking at those recovered materials, as it provides much needed light on what we just discovered, discussed, and went over. All documents contained in this file are Class 4 clearance, requiring 2 signed approvals to access. The newspaper article from the Blue Test. Only one item could be recovered during our initial test, and that was a newspaper clipping found attached to a corkboard in an abandoned bunker. Most of the articles were in a state of decay, but one was firm enough for recovery. Most Holy Father announces progress, unclean being cleansed. A rare public address directly from the Most Holy Father of the United Lands of the Sun has declared that the Blessed Militia has driven back many of the unclean who are skulking our lands now. New Rome, our capital, has been purged of the unclean, and citizens are encouraged to come back to their homes. Citizens who live in the surrounding countryside should not return to their farms, as the unclean still roam the fields and plains around our glorious city and continue to grow in size. The Blessed Militia has developed new weapons, which have proven capable of punishing the unclean and driving them back into the unfertile lands. Construction has begun of a system to permanently close the unfertile lands off from our blessed lands, in each affected area once all the unclean have been driven away. The Most Holy requests that all citizens of our united lands bow in prayer and offer tithe to recognize the sacrifices of our Blessed Militia in these troubled times. Reports have been coming in that falsely accuse the Blessed Militia of having committed sin against the citizens whose homes they are inhabiting as they travel bravely through contaminated lands. The Most Holy would like to remind people that blasphemy against any who wear his mark is the most grave of sin, and unfounded accusations will be punished accordingly. We should work to support he and his men, however possible, just as they lay down their lives for us. The sinful rebels who, as the article cuts off. From the green test, we received several newspaper articles as well as a diary. Our second test recovered many materials that helped to establish a sequence of events for this alternate world. The diary recovered provided a glimpse into the last days of the owners of the home from which it was recovered, and may represent activity in other areas of the world as well. Newspaper Article 2. Farms surrounding the city of Silver Feathers have reported being unable to contact neighbors across voice or video feeds in the last week. Until an approval is granted by the Regional High Father, an investigation cannot commence, but he assures that people that these events have not escaped his attention. Residents are advised to notify their local Blessed Voice daily, so any further disappearances can be addressed immediately. Residents are also advised to begin stocking their shelters to be ready for any situation. Newspaper Article 3. Following the disappearance of the Blessed Voices from several outlying regions around the city of Silver Feathers, the Regional High Father has declared a concern for safety and livelihood. Under the declaration, all farmland residents must evacuate immediately to their shelters. Scattered reports of an unclean have come, but none have yet to be verified. Article 4. The City of Glorious Song has stopped responding to any and all communications. The worst can only be assumed, and our hearts go out to any who are in the region who are unable to hear our words. The City of Silver Father's Blessed Militia has reported several incursions by the unclean into the city, and have exterminated 4 of the abominations before they can become a danger to any residents. The Regional High Father reminds the citizens to avoid direct confrontation with the unclean. Conventional firearms do nothing to the unclean. Only the most holy of implements will penetrate their skin, so do not put yourself in danger. Any citizens who suspect their neighbors indulging in heavy sin should immediately contact the Blessed Militia through their designated checkpoints. And now from our diary. The dates have all been redacted, so we will simply go by entry. Entry 1. I have the distinct feeling we're gonna die, so I'm gonna write this all down now for whoever comes along and finds our bones. My name is... I'm not gonna keep doing an accent, I apologize. My name is Herverf Yakolsiv, and I am a farmer. I grows the rapsticks and the huskers. We raise the inks and the ooms. It's me, my wife, Ophiri, and our 2 little ones, Trevin and Listieria. Fuck! I break character sometimes in this case because some of these names are insane. I got this book in trade from the blessed man who came by for food and shelter. He told us to start getting our shelter ready and not to let no other blessed who come By even know we're here. This is the whole thing breakdown. Nothing right no more. So I does as he said. Got it all ready. We going down there the next day or so. In the morning, he was gone. Which made the wife sad as he was polite to us, unlike most of the others. Figure he didn't want to be no birder. Liz went out looking for him to be sure he wasn't just around the house. Entry 2. He didn't turn up nowhere, so we guess he left. Strange stuff. Liz found his clothes around a mile or so away, and all his gear, but no him. She left it all there, and that's for the best if what happened that I think. I'm clearly no educated man, don't claim to be, but I can put two and two together and tell you that things are bad out there. For everyone, and especially for us, it's coming way too close. Sometimes you can smell it. That's when we hide. Smells like a leg of meat that's been rotting for too long and just won't go back into the dirt. Even the soil is rejecting him, I guess, refusing to let him be buried and die. The last entry that the man bothered to put a date on. It came too fast. We weren't ready. The smell came in the night. Maybe we would have been fine, but the little ones were afraid, so we went down to the shelter. Trev was slow. He saw it, kept straight, staring at it as it shambled by. It ignored us until he screamed when I was getting lost in the mist down in the shelter. I went up to get him, but it was too fast. I saw him standing up there screaming, and then its head came down on him, pressed over him. He tried to run for the stairs, tried to get to us, but then in a blink he was gone, and it pulled away. His clothes fell into the cellar like he vanished out of him. I got into the shelter, slammed the hatch, and locked it. I think it knows we're here now. It'll try and get in, take us too. No telling how long we got. Plenty of food, though. I was wrong. The food was rotten. Something got into it, or I just didn't notice. We're eating what we can. There's food, but not enough, and that thing ain't leaving. It's trying to find ways in. Smelt the smell coming from the life web plug in the wall. Something seeped through it, and we kept away. It got all hard like a rock and don't smell no more. Maybe the power in the plug finally let it die. I went up to peek. Cellar is fine. Trev's clothes still on the stairs. Peeked outside. We're not going to make it. There were 10, 20, 30. Couldn't count. So many, all going in a circle around the house. Looking at it with those faceless faces and the stink. Oh, the stink. Went back into the shelter and locked the door. I think I don't want to see my family rot away. Think faster is better. The miss, she agrees. We won't tell Liz. She'll be the first. Then my wife, my love. Then me. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I gave the best life to my family possible. It was them holy ones that brought this. I'm going to pen this in memory to my great Pap. He was old and knew stories older than himself. Says those unclean they preach about, those unfertile zones they stay out of. All 'cause of the most holy bringing the world together. Them things are the ultimate sin. Everything about us that was evil and impure, it's them. They don't know nothing but doing what they do. Don't even know why they do it. They just do it. Take us into them, then we're gone. I asked Pap what they were, and he lit a stick, took a puff, and he said, "Don't know." Nobody knows. Nobody will admit it. But if you see this symbol, if you see it, you run, boy. You run fast. You run far, and you hide, and you never go back where you saw it. That's all I know. I remember the symbol was on the rock he kept on his neck under his shirt. Next day, Pap was gone, nowhere to be found. Dad weren't sad. Said he knew it'd happen one day. Pap went home. See you soon, Dad. Pap. Daddy expunged symbol. Now I have to get out of the accent. Symbol matches symbols found on SCP-093's surface as one of the deeper engravings. Also matches symbol notice on the video feed of final test on SCP-093 duplicates. Now we have the office ledger. The third test with SCP-093 resulted in the unfortunate loss of a security member, but also allowed us to recover a ledger with insight into the medical procedures carried out on the alternate Earth, now termed E093. Patient Jennifer McZurka. Recovery tube 001-1. Mixture 35% tears, 30% nutrient, 10% HFT, 25% blessing. Jennifer McZurka is 20 cycles of age and during her 18th cycle is the victim of a HOV-ride accident that resulted in brain damage and misalignment of her moral processes. She is prone to violent outbursts and can only be calmed down by impure stimulation. Because of this, she actively seeks out strangers to mingle with, and her parents have requested of the High Father that she be set to the tears to mend her mind and body. The patient accepted. During preparation for the tears, subject went into a rage, and the attending hand went to recover a sedative. Jennifer tore her clothes off and screamed impure words at me, so I locked the door and instructed the hand to wait outside. I am half shameful to admit I laid with Jennifer a total of 7 times before putting her to the tears. It has been a very long time for me, and her parents have abandoned her to our care, so care for her I will. Before setting her to the tears, I authorized a blessing probe for body functions and found she is settled now with young, and test to confirm it shall be mine. I have mixed her bath to accommodate this, and she will soak in the tears until her body is ready to give life. Patient, none. Recovery tube, 001-2. Mixture, none. Summary, none. Patient, this is the third tube. Patient, Albarius Ferrophon. Recovery tube, 001-3. 80% tears, 20% nutrient. Albarius Ferrophon is a farmer from outside the city of Silver Fathers who claims to have lost family to the unclean. He confronted the High Fathers of the city and demanded compensation and retribution for the loss. The High Fathers deny the existence of unclean beyond the unfertile lands and refuse compensation or retribution. Albarius struck a High Father and was arrested and sentenced to a cleansing of the soul. His mixture is primarily tears to seep into the soul and cleanse his heart and ease his pain. The lawkeepers state his family is indeed missing, so his sentence beyond the tears has been dropped in sympathy for their loss. I used the last of the HFT on Jennifer, or I would have used less tears in this bath. 80% is higher than I am comfortable with, but the HFT is becoming hard to obtain. I may have to go through the dark. Patient, nothing. Recovery tube 002-1. 75% nutrient, 25% blessing. A member of the Blessed Militia who was wounded in combat. Request is from the High Father, details withheld, and the same is for the next 2. The yellow test, the PC printout, the safe diary, and the gun. The 4th test into E093 provided us with documentation assumed to be written by a technician in either a medical or government facility. The gun, found in the safe, has been considered for SCP classification primarily due to the composition of the ammunition found with it and the advanced firing mechanism attached to what should be a very base firearm. The PC printout. I did not trust the Overwatchers. I felt something was wrong years ago. Under my desk on floor 54 is a safe with a weapon in it. It is one of those used by the Blessed Militia. My brother has sent it to me. He says they are also not what they claim. They have done things to our fellows even more vile than what the unclean would do. He tells me to be ready to fight. I cannot. It is not me. I do not know violence. I am too frail. You. Use it. Save yourself. The diary itself. My name is Herval Tolowis. I am a hard systems watcher here. My job is to monitor the sinful who bathe in the Lord's tears and then make sure that they reach the prescribed dilution time. I have been doing this job for 23 years, and now things are falling apart. I can no longer abide by the most holy. I must speak the truth. We are being told to evacuate. The containment tubes have been breached. An unclean has appeared in the place of rest, and we are unable to destroy it. The live motion footage shows how it came to be, and this is what has unsealed my heart and mind and tongue. I must speak. Should the Overwatchers see this, I will be silenced, so I must hide it. Thankfully, they are ignorant with the hardware, so I can hide this easily. The Overwatchers told us we should leave last, to ensure the hardware contains the unclean. What that means is we should distract it and die in case it breaches the watching decks. It has shattered nearly all tubes and absorbed the people in them. I have dispatched the eyes to the unclean, and they have touched it, bringing me back a sample. The unclean are not sinners. They are not products of our disobedience. I suspect they are us. The eyes have dated the sample. It is older than myself, older than my elders. It is over 200 cycles in age. 200. The sirens are still sounding, but no signal has come for us to leave. I do not think this unclean is alone. I have seen how they can get into places. Between places. Between places. Is that where they have been all this time? Between places. The makeup of the unclean is unstable. Molecules detach and reattach almost before my eyes, as if to move the entire thing, reforms itself in space and time. Why does it not come up here? Too much effort? Or does it not sense me? They have no eyes, no mouth, no face. They cannot speak, cannot see, but they must be able to sense us. The smell, it's so strong. It comes from all directions. It is not a smell of the dead. It is a smell that comes from something that should be dead, but does not know how. The War of the Holy Union. I think that was where it may have started. We are united under the Most Holy, but what does he owe us? Nothing. We merely keep society running while those on high benefit. Is this not how it has always been? But now we are told we are pleasing the will of those above us in the clouds, those great beings who gave us the power to live and prosper, those who we have never laid eyes upon but are told we must revere. Lies, all of it. It must be. I am using the eyes to create a fluid to oppose the makeup of the unclean sample. Perhaps they will cancel each other out. I will leave soon and store the rounds here. I cannot use the weapon. I am too weak a man for this. I will protect my family with my mind and not with my rage. We will be safe in the fields. I know where to go. I will go above now to my family. I will leave the hardware running. I was told to turn it off, but this is where I defy them. It will run. This will watch. The eyes will see for however much time they have. Someone will read this, and someone will know. Take the gun. Take the fluid. Do not listen to the Most Holy. We did, and we are damned. Redacted is a revolver-style weapon, with two 12-bullet cylinders. The design of the gun has one cylinder on each side, raised slightly so they may flip into the gun itself and then rotate, firing all rounds before flipping back out and allowing it to be reloaded, while the second is usable, allowing for a total of 24 shots before it runs empty. There is no firing pin on this gun, but instead there is a pullback slide mechanism that must be used to prime the active cylinder. At the time of recovering, all 24 shots contained a syringe-style bullet with 32 needles on the end. On impact, it is assumed the force of the shot will press the liquid inside into the target. None have been tested. Of express interest is that these cylinders can hold standard .45 caliber ammunition, which has been tested. The gun uses an ultra-high-powered magnetic rail system to deliver the shot, so the gunpowder in the bullet is never used. In consideration is a redesign of a round that would utilize the gunpowder mid-flight to add even higher velocity to the round, or that would explode on impact for higher yield. And now we have the final test. The one that really helps us bring all this together and also asks many more questions. The best SCPs continue asking questions after they are finished, so this is nothing different or new. The final authorized test with SCP-093 resulted in the loss of a skilled service technician, but allowed us to recover very revealing documents that can only be assumed to not have been intended for public knowledge in any world. Curious among these is Agent Redacted's report, which appears to have been written by a Foundation employee several decades ago. While these paper printouts were the best material recovered, it seems that the system used to create them allowed for multiple forms of input, including typed and verbal speech to text. Some audio logs of the printouts below are available, but must be requested in advance with fully written explanation as to why. This dual input system seems to explain the variances in the style between users, as well with assumptions made on the part of the software while performing conversions. In the event of any emergency requiring the facility to be evacuated, all Clear 4 staff should report to Train Station 3 and use their vial to call the evacuation train. Only one vial is required to call the train and may contain any amount of tears. An empty vial will not call the train. Clear 2 and 1 staff should remain at their posts until either 10 minutes after the departure of Clear 4 persons or until authorized by Clear 4 staff. Clear 3 staff should utilize the protective garments at their stations and weapon lockers before proceeding to designated crisis areas as dictated by Clear 4 staff. Reports. 3 unfertile zones have increased 25% in size in the last 7 days. Containment teams are not finding any presence of unclean in these zones, but they are visibly confirmed as expanding. Clear 5 level High Fathers have confirmed breaches in the holy chambers in each of these zones. All chambers found empty. It is believed that the unclean have breached containment on the holy chambers. Dispatching additional guard to remaining chambers. Situation X 549. Expansion of Zone 6-4-TO has been confirmed. Unfertile zone containment procedures in effect. Containment staff dispatched to site. This is the 10th report in 30 days, upgrading the situation status. Reports from Clear 5 High Fathers have stopped at all affected. The city of his word has been placed on full lockdown, and all travel denied in or out. Other cities are now in alert mode, and combat teams are being dispatched to city perimeters. Situation 550. The great land of Hufusia has fallen per satellite images. Entire landmass considered tainted. Outbreak of sin reported in Lavina. That landmass has requested assistance from the Holy Union. Assistance denied due to our own outbreak and mass reportings of unclean. Clear 10 staff have issued the order to evacuate via the gateway, and for all Holy Union authorized persons to proceed to the nearest sky platform for evacuation to Star Eye Eden to continue monitoring status. Gateway keys are being ejected to prevent spread from this center to other space-time vectors. Resurrecting staff are being awakened to monitor and continue reports here as we evacuate. May his blessings forgive our greatest sin. Evacuation log. Evacuation in progress. Shuttle 1 away. Shuttle 2 away. Shuttle 3 error. Release us. Why? Shuttle 3 error launch aborted. Proceed to Shuttle 4. Shuttle 4 reporting delayed launch. Overloaded. Triage protocols engaged. Shuttle 4 reports passenger limit obtained. Preparing to launch. Why? Release us. Why? God damn, I'm not reading all that. I'm sorry. Why are we hurt? What did we do? Why were we hurt? What did we do? System shutdown. Yeah, this is the system going insane. Then we get to bullshit, which is, this one's funny, actually. What the fuck is this place, lol? Okay, so, like, there are people typing stuff here, so I'm gonna type too, lol. So, like, I found this rock on the pond by the house, and it was all kind of glowy and stuff when I picked it up, so I'm like, whoa, wow, pretty. When I pick it up, the pond, you couldn't see the bottom. It was this weird room with a glowy rock thing. Well, I don't know, so I guess I fell into it. Oops. And now I'm here and not there, and really I'm kind of scared, but this place is like a movie set, so it's cool. Well, there's some guy I can hear talking. He keeps asking me to come downstairs, but I don't see no door. He keeps screaming for help, too, because I told him... to eat me, laugh, and he won't shut up. I guess I could try going back into that room, but it's so creepy in there. I'm sort of scared. Oh, so hey, I found a door. It's like in the floor instead of the wall, so like I'm gonna go tell that guy yelling to shut up. Some random kid found the thing. Agent Redacted's report. My name is Redacted, and I am an agent at the Foundation. The year in my world is 1972. I assume it is the same in this world, but from what I have seen due to SCP-093, life on this world ended in approximately 1954. I have used SCP-093 to visit a number of locales, starting and ending here in this center. I have seen the landscapes where no grass will grow. I have run from the unclean as they pursue anything they sense. I have no understanding of how they hunt, but I have learned what they are. Approximately 350 years ago or so, this world experienced a technological boom ours did not. The source of this seems to have been the arrival of He, a godlike being of unknown origin. He declared the world unclean and full of sin, and the only way to purge itself of this sin was to purge the sinners. A war, whoever was left alive, was clean. Amazing advances in science were bestowed to all the cultures for a period of 10 years to prepare them for this war, and during that time he disappeared. The war happened anyway. The instigator, the Holy Union of Land, apparently the landmass that for us would become the United States. Records are sketchy, and books that detail anything about this time period are forbidden in the world. I located a cache of recorded history by following a series of corrupted computer communications. It seems the primary weapon used in this war for his love was, in fact, people. Exposed to something called his holy tears, a liquid compound I have seen in use even today in abandoned medical facilities. His holy tears purge the sin from the unclean and make them love him. At least, that's what the label states. The records I recovered are very unclear about how this war was waged, except to state, his holy chosen walked across the lands of the sinful and took their sin unto themselves. Those who cried for his salvation received it and are now our children. Those who denied his love were purified in his radiance. But something apparently happened no one knew how to deal with. The unclean, the large creatures that are half a man and devour whatever they touch that lives and breathes. I actually found a scientific report written by someone who stumbled here with the SCP-093 copy. These creatures are the result of exposure to a very pure form of his tears, resulting in a genetic apocalypse occurring within the exposed. There are terms in here, something about quantum restructuring. I don't understand any of this, but it means they were once humans like everyone else that couldn't be controlled, but they could be contained. They seemed to be attracted to his tears, and a central point was established in various regions where a person with the purest form of his tears stays, keeping the unclean in that area known as the unfertile lands. Something went wrong with that too. Not sure what, but everything fell apart. The power structure, the culture, the people, all of it fell to ruins, and now those things shamble around the land as its new owners, with no purpose or direction. You can stand next to one if you can stand the stink, and they just slip right past you. If you catch their attention, though, that's it. They move like lightning if they need to, and like a snail unless they have a reason to speed up. Sometimes I think they chase just to do it. Others, they move to kill. I think someone is in this facility, or someone's. I keep hearing voices and requests coming from areas under the floor. I want to leave this before I explore the facility any further. I have sent SCP-093 back through the entry mirror to seal that gate. These things can't be let into our world, nor should we have anything to do with this one. We're simply not smart enough to understand it all, I feel. I don't think the unclean can die. They're immortal, but they don't want to be. They just want to die. They're in my head, I think. I didn't notice it till just now, but equipment in this room is starting to react to me. Words on the screen begging for help. I remember touching the tears, smelling it, tasting it, just a touch, not eating it, just touching to it, tasting for acidity. We have pretty stupid investigative procedure, I think. The High Fathers are alive. They have technology we only imagine in our comics given by him. Some of the records on this machine indicate space travel, but they didn't go far, just far enough to watch the world fall apart and wait to come back and take it. But if they're up there, who's in this building with me? I've seen the faces of the people, the unclean. They show up on the pictures cast by the machine in the room with me, watching me. I think they're everywhere on this world, only seen by the machines now. They don't look sad or happy, just curious. They want to know why. Why them? Why did it all happen? I don't know. I just don't know. They showed me things when I touched them, and it's not quite like the records say. The unclean remember it all. Every single person they touch becomes part of them, safe inside them, but dead to us. Every mind, every feeling, every terror, it's eternal to them. I kind of want to join them, but too much to do. They want me to. Find him. Kill him. There was no war. It was him. It. It came from between the folds of time and space, and worlds and light and dark, and something that is but should not be slipped in and called out to them as their god, and they believed it, and they tasted it, and touched it, and laid with it, and became its property, and did its will, and it is still here. The SCP-093 it brought with it, pulled forcefully with it, built it, I don't know. They don't know, but it belongs to them. It lets him in. It lets him move between places, between worlds, so I broke it. I threw pieces of it away and threw the holes so those doors are closed, just like ours is closed. And I can't go home, so what else can I do? It calls out through the rock. Somehow it knows where they are, but it can't touch them. But if you hide the rock, he can't call out, and he's stuck too. I got you, you son of a bitch. I got you. Bang, bang! I touched him with my fist and my gun, and he fell down, but he'll get back up soon. I'm sorry. I did all I could. Let me sleep now, please. Please let me sleep. And that was SCP-093. A long one, but probably one of my favorites. There's a lot to it, and a lot to unpack. An alternate world, an alternate Earth, visited by some unknown and unknowable being, revered as a god, gave the people the means to destroy themselves, seemingly in some pernicious game. Also, welcome back, Robin. I hope you're feeling better. Now, the next one we're going to... This one's a little weird. I'm not going to lie to you. This one's funky. This one's freaky deaky. We're moving over to a group of interest. Or rather, an article that has to do with a group of interest. 093 is a entry very self-contained. There are other tales that can be read about this one. For instance, one that I highly recommend is Lord Blackwood's Adventure in the Land of the Unclean, which is explicitly about another SCP, before it got turned into a snail, going into and examining this world in the 1800s before it fell. An incredibly interesting story. But we are now moving over to the Fifthist Church, a group of esoterica enthusiasts. And these things make very little sense, but they are so good. Fifthist things very rarely make any actually coherent sense, and as far as goals of Fifthism, we don't really know much. They're a church that believe in something out there beyond the stars. They range from absolutely silly to SCP-1425, something that is actually quite dangerous. Although it is listed as safe. As I mentioned before, a safe object class doesn't mean that it's actually safe. Robin, you know what this one is. I would like to thank you for this recommendation, actually. I'm going to take a quick second because I am not in the proper headspace yet for a Fifthist entry. If you understand my drift. We'll change the art here. The fan art for the SCP Foundation community is absolutely insane. It's booming. Unfortunately, it's also been reposted like crazy, so finding the original artist for things can be a pain in the ass. If I could have found the original artist for the images you're seeing today, I would have credited them. Unfortunately, I could not find the people who originally made these myself. If you guys are able to find them, please let me know. I will post them on the VOD when I put this on YouTube. I want these artists to get the credit they deserve. Because the one for SCP-093 is genuinely fantastic, and I was unable to really envision those creatures in a really great way until seeing the art that someone had done for them. and it just kind of made it a lot clearer. I'm not sure if it was probably incredibly obvious just from me reading it off, but I have a lot of difficulty with the formatting of video logs like that, where it's just a listing of events. It has a tendency to really screw with my head. Or rather, it screws with the way my brain thinks about speech, and it just wants to not read things that way. All right. So how are you guys doing today? On this lovely, blistery Christmas Eve. I'm having a great time. Nice and relaxing. You know, that's fair. I hope you're able to get it done, man. I'm looking forward to it. You told me what it was. Shit sounds awesome. All right. God, that's good shit. I am drinking cream cherry wine. How long is it looking so far? I'm very curious. All right. All right, nice. So a good deal longer. Hell yeah. Looking forward to it. Looking very forward to it, actually. So, let us get started with SCP-1425, Star Signals. The object class is safe. However, this object itself is not in any way safe. A single copy of SCP-1425 is to be kept in a double-locked archive in Storage Site 40. Access to the document is to be completely restricted, barring express written permission of at least 2 of the following officials: the Site Director, the EID Chief, the CMA Head, or an O5 personnel. A second copy is contained in an undisclosed location under procedures divulged only to O5 Council members. All forms of printed and televised media available throughout the United States are to be monitored for the appearance of keywords and key symbols from the list provided in CMA Document 1425A. Any located additional copies of SCP-1425 are to be turned over to CMA custody for destruction. In the event that a second SCP-1425 event begins to manifest, contact an official listed above immediately to initiate Protocol Ophiuchus. SCP-1425 is a hardcover book measuring 20 centimeters by 35 centimeters by 5 centimeters and published in 2005 by Company Redacted Books, now defunct. See Operation Stargazer Files. The front cover bears the title Star Signals. The back cover has the following description. Did you know that some stars in the sky are dead, but we still see their ancient image? With the best-selling novel Star Signals, sold in 4 countries and translated into hundreds of languages, you can tune into the celestial frequencies and then become like the stars. When a subject reads the full text of SCP-1425, the book exerts a mild, reality-warping effect, influenced by the subject's desires, which in turn are influenced by SCP-1425. See below. When a sufficiently large number of subjects are exposed to this effect, further complications arise in terms of mental health and the integrity of space-time. See Event Log SCP-1425-05. The document is a non-fiction book of the self-help genre, advertised as a manual which teaches the use of the 5-step STAR signal method to achieve the reader's dreams and ambitions. The method itself is a program of visualization reinforced through mantras and positive affirmations. Unlike nearly all books of the self-help genre, SCP-1425 is directly efficacious in assisting the subject in achieving personal goals. The book has no content regarding practical measures to achieve goals. Instead, it speaks entirely on the star focuses and other wishful thinking rituals. These exercises, when conducted properly, demonstrably influence reality, beginning with a direct influence on the appearance of the star used in the exercise. A reader who expresses a wish to win the lottery will receive a winning ticket within the next week. Any reader whose goal is a new car will find themselves driving it in the next week. The amount of work invested into achieving the goal outside of performing the prescribed rituals has only a supplementary effect. A subject who makes no special effort to pursue the focused desire still succeeds at a rate documented at roughly 80%. However, if the instructions for reading, order, and frequency are not followed correctly, the anomalous effect is either greatly diminished or fails entirely. In early chapters, these exercises are focused on 2 things: the exact goals that the reader has in mind, and the concentration on certain stars in the sky. This activity is connected to the titular star signals. SCP-1425 claims that the light emitted by stars carries a phenomenological frequency, which is unique to each star and which is connected to the phenomenological frequency of each human's mind. Each of the book's 10 chapters ends with a star-focused ritual. This is a meditation performed each night, with the central focus being a celestial body. The celestial body used is determined by a calendar given in the prologue. This ensures that all readers at any given time are focusing on the same place, no matter which section of the book they are reading. The 10th chapter is an exception. See document 1425A. Throughout its pages, SCP-1425 contains verbal devices intended to influence the mind of the reader during exercises. These include the combination of mimetic triggers and neuro-linguistic programming to make the subject receptive to the ideas presented in the text and to optimize the results of its anomalous effect. Once the core ideas of the book have been introduced and worked upon, visualization exercises begin to include concentration on other concepts, including political and philosophical messages. The latter chapters of the book serve to alter the thoughts and desires of the user to conform to a standard that would remain consistent across the readers of the text. Approximately 60% of readers who read the entirety of SCP-1425 exhibit a mental condition called Ojai syndrome, spelled O-J-A-I, for those simply listening. See Event Log SCP-1425-2005. SCP-1425 is believed to have been written and published by operatives of the Fifth Church, an influential cult whose members consist largely of celebrities, including actors, musicians, authors, television hosts, and other personalities. At the time, the list of confirmed fifths numbered redacted, with the list of suspected cultists counting in excess of redacted. Many of the confirmed individuals were easily identified through public appearances wearing the trademark Star Stone, a polished green stone worn as a necklace, bracelet, or other accessory. These connections were utilized by the Fifthist Fellowship in the form of celebrity endorsements and widespread media coverage used to make SCP-1425 quickly and exceptionally popular. Due to these measures, as well as substantial word-of-mouth advertising, Star Signals became a national bestseller within 2 weeks of publication and held this position until the book was virtually purged from the public knowledge by SCP Foundation using Protocol Ophiuchus. I too very much enjoy Star Signals. I love this one. The Fifth Church is super interesting. They have a lot of the more esoteric, strange, and honestly kind of terrifying SCPs. This being only one of them, its name may be kind of humorous, but the Vorhole is genuinely kind of a terrifying SCP. Given how you find it. But we're not done with SCP-1425. We first must go through the document, event log, and addendum. Let us begin with document 1425A, SCP-1425 excerpts. The following passages are taken directly from the text of SCP-1425. These excerpts have been selected to minimize exposure to cognitohazardous mimetic triggers and other textual anomalies. Chapter 2, Section 3. The Whole You Exist Around. Do you feel a void in your life? Everyone does, whether they know it or not. Think about it. You can feel it inside you right now. A heavy emptiness in the middle of your chest. It's a reflection of the one in your existence, like particles in quantum entanglement. Do you remember how we talked about quantum entanglement? Nod yes if you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you feel the emptiness. This is good. It's a blank spot waiting for you to fill it up with your deepest desire until your deepest desire is pushing up into your throat. You will gag on your need, and until you do, it is a resonation space for you to build your will like an organ music in a cathedral. Hear the music now. This is not a metaphor. If your will is strong enough, there will be music now. Remember now that nothing in this book is a metaphor. Chapter 3. Taking Effects. Section 5. You are in time. Star Focus. Find your night spot and begin to focus on your star. Prologue Section 3. Star Focus Calendar. April blank Epsilon Sagittari. If you can't find it in your star chart, it's the base of the Hunter's Bow and the brightest star in the constellation. As you stare up into it, use your mind-clearing word. Your meditation is redacted. Redacted. Now is our time. Here is our space. We take your star. We hold your bonds. Repay your debt. Redacted. 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 Don't worry about memorization. Anytime you use your mind-clearing words, you'll remember them, even if you only read them once. If you do it right, your star will disappear. You'll feel it resonating with the others in your void. Chapter 5, End of Act 1, Section 4, 2 days. If you have read this book correctly, and you have, tomorrow is the start of the weekend. Savor it. The 5-day work week is an artifact of your world. You'll find out all about that on Monday. During the next 2 days, put this book down. Don't pick it up. Yes, this means 2 days without your star exercises. Yes, this means that for 2 days, your will is not going to be with you. Don't even think about it after the end of this sentence. Your will is being used for your good. Chapter 6, The Fifth World, Section 2, The Fifth Reason. In your current society, you are encouraged to be yourself, as if this is the key to making your desires real. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. You can't be anyone other than yourself. If you were to be someone else, you would still be you, and you would be someone who is someone else. There is no getting out from under existence, because you can't be anyone else. It stands to reason that if you want to change in your reality, it is the world that must change to suit you. You must mold your phenomenological landscape into one where all of your goals are achieved. Now imagine that the place where your desires are made real has a name. It's called the Fifth World. The Fifth World is the cosmos twisted around you into the shape you will wish for. It has never been, but you can make it so. If the current world is like a tight collared suit, the Fifth World is like a flowing robe that allows complete freedom of movement. You will never truly move before you move in the Fifth World. You'll feel like a square on a piece of paper who is only just a claw about up and down. Chapter 9. Do not look away from the book. Section 3. Here and now. Some helpful advice that will save you in your coming weeks. Mirrors are for other people. Sit in a dark room by yourself for at least an hour per day. Move around as much as you're made to. If you feel yourself developing a soul, go outside immediately and follow the direction of the smoke until you meet them. Always listen for the sound of Slán or Trollan Plurmglanthe. Love the Archons. When you hate them, they see you. Chapter 10. You Cannot Wake Up. Section 1. Redacted. Slán Tlir Naltle Oberfifth. Tlal Slán Plurchildren Tun Tlo Sapitle. Don't worry about the smoke. We'll get to that. The next log. Oh, I have to drink something. Fuck. I like doing the announcer voice or the salesman voice for the book excerpts. It's fun for me. I also have to drink something afterwards, though. There we go. Next one. Event log 1425. 05. The following events occurred between the publication date of SCP-1425, April 22, 2005, and the official end date of Event 1425, May 11, 2005. Day 1, Monday, 4/22. The second print run of SCP-1425 is completed simultaneously at 3 locations. The Redacted Publishing House main printing facility, then located in Redacted, Texas, a smaller facility located in Redacted, Maine, and a third branch in Redacted, England. The first 2 factories ship SCP-1425 to bookstores across America. The third is distributed through the British Isles. The first print run was, according to recovered documentation, a private distribution among members of the Fifth Church to be passed to friends and family. Day 8. 4/29. Television host. Redacted. Name withheld following Operation Stargazer Protocol. Daytime talk show. Redacted. Airs its monthly Reading Circle special. The entirety of the episode is devoted to the promotion of SCP-1425. The host claims that star signals rocked her world, and that you will see and feel the changes almost instantly. At the 31-minute mark, her guest, Hugh Laurie, jokes that the book's advice may be responsible for the host's success. He adds, I hope nobody hates you. The host looks at the copy of SCP-1425 in her hands for 4 seconds before remarking, "Fuck, it's finding the holes." This line is muted in its entirety in the West Coast feed, but appears uncensored in the live airing, stirring much controversy on the subject of obscenity in television. Sales of SCP-1425 grow to over 50 times their current rate over the coming week. Day 12. Friday, 5/3. Reports of mental illness begin to increase in the southwestern United States. In Ojai, California, the Boyar family, a 45-year-old father, a 50-year-old mother, and a 24-year-old daughter, are admitted to an Ojai mental institution following what appears to be 3 simultaneous episodes of glossolalia and violent and delusional behavior. The trio is located in a street several miles from their home, conversing loudly to each other about their surroundings. Witnesses report overhearing the remarks, "I love how the buildings don't line up anymore," and "once I get conversant, I'll fix your tongues if I have to." When a bystander approaches the Boyars, the mother remarks that it's not supposed to be out, and the father begins to assault the bystander with a pocket knife. Local law enforcement is notified, and when officers arrive, the 24-year-old is, as witnesses reports, shouting nonsense. Speculated to be similar to the text of Chapter 10 of SCP-1425, to the bystander who is being held down by the father and mother. The bystander is being made to repeat these utterances. When the bystander makes an error in punctuation, the father carves into 4 long existing cuts made on the bystander's face, forming a square. The 3 are arrested and the bystander is admitted to a local hospital for bruises and severe lacerations. Day 13, Saturday, 5/4. Foundation agents investigate the case of the Boyars and determine a possible link between their outburst in the book titled Star Signals. The Boyars' copy is confiscated for examination, as well as a new copy from a local bookstore. Researchers note that, although Star Signals has been available on the market for nearly 2 weeks, no critical reviews or other analytical reports have been published in newspapers, nor on television, and roughly 80% of online reviews have been deleted by the website's owners. This is later determined to be an intentional action on the part of the Fifth Church. Part of 1425's mind-altering effect is a reluctance to openly discuss the actual text of the publication, even in celebrity endorsements. Day 14, Sunday, 5/5. Foundation researchers studying star signals confirm the connection with the recent upswing in mental hospital admittance and arrests for irrational behavior. Most of those affected by the syndrome are nonviolent, but all identified cases contain the common threads of peculiarly delusional statements and speaking in incomprehensible, consonant-heavy language. Following an in-depth analysis, Star Signals is classified as an anomalous cognitohazard and designated SCP-1425. Researchers alert the site director. As due to the SCP designation of the text Star Signals, the Foundation is experiencing a massive containment breach. Foundation agents determined that, based on the air date of the Reading Circle episode of the redacted television show, SCP-1425, strict instructions on how it is to be read beginning on Monday and continuing for 1 chapter day each weekday for 2 weeks, and the manifestation of the anomalous effect when the subject completes the full text of 1425. The spike in symptoms predicted by the researchers will be experienced on day 19, Friday, May 10th, when the readers who purchased the book on the same day as the episode aired will have completed the program. Day 15, Monday, 5/6. Foundation researchers in Storage Site 40 and Foundation agents at O5 headquarters in conjunction with Foundation subdivisions, the CMA, Communication Moderation Agency, and EID, redacted, lay out a process for retrieving, containing, and destroying as many instances of SCP-1425 as possible. This plan is designated Protocol Ophiuchus. Steps taken immediately upon implementation include: the redacted publishing company is determined to be a front for the Fifth Church and is seized. MTF Theta 11, Wranglers, MTF Gamma 4, Moneylenders, and MTF Lambda 21, Cave Dwellers, are sent to Texas, Maine, and England printing facilities, respectively. All MTFs are met with armed resistance and engage with no friendly casualties. Publication of SCP-1425 is ended. The publisher's headquarters in Redacted, California is commandeered by MTF Phi 1, hostile takeover. An international recall is issued. Through the use of EID intelligence, Foundation agents circumvent the Star Signals media blackout. The press release claims that the 11th chapter has been omitted and the 10th chapter has been severely misprinted. Consumers are given an incentive of a $25 voucher for returning a copy of Star Signals. Bookstores in America and England pull their stock of SCP-1425 for recall. The CMA monitors all national broadcasts, especially network television, for anomalies related to SCP-1425. Any such anomalies are to be removed from broadcast through one of several classified means. And the further action is redacted. Additionally, the first broadcast to be intercepted through the use of Protocol Ophiuchus is during the daytime talk show, Redacted, which features further promotion of SCP-1425. Television host, Redacted, conducts an interview with musician Beck. At the 18-minute mark, the following incident occurs. Redacted: I hear you're very spiritual. Does it influence your work? Beck: Yeah, it has to be. It's an influence on everything, no matter what I'm doing. I try to keep grounded. That's emphasis on try to. There's a reason why it's called practicing spirituality. You're never getting good at it. Redacted, interrupting off screen. Can I just say something? The camera angle changes to a close-up of their face. The host is staring directly at the viewer. You have to keep calm. Take a good, deep breath. Remember what the man said. Stars may die in 3s, but worlds die in 5s. Like insects injected with maggots. What were we talking about? I don't actually remember. You were talking about celebrities. Yes, I wanted to ask, Redacted died recently. How has it affected you? Why don't I just say, I think we'll stay together? that's weird. The network is contacted by the Foundation and releases a public statement that Redacted is suffering from exhaustion. It will not be taping episodes on the following week. Redacted is unable to be located for detainment. Can't find her. Day 16, Tuesday, 5/7. Since day 12, several dozen instances of behavior similar to that of Boyar family have been publicly reported. The mental illness is dubbed Ojai syndrome in television, online, and newspaper reports, and is, to the general public, entirely unexplained. Foundation testing on subjects with the disorder has demonstrated that a moderate dosage of Class B amnestics is effective in treating Ojai syndrome. Broadcast intercepted by Protocol Fuchsius. Redacted 24-hour news network. An interview between Redacted and Parliament member Redacted began to cover events which have never actually occurred. The MP, for example, considers the consequences of a revolution in India in 1921, which he describes as shorter than the Boston Massacre and 10 times as bloody. A transcript at the end of the interview is provided here. Interviewer. There are some people out there who believe that if we wish something didn't happen hard enough, it really didn't happen. Well, and they're right, It's about quantity, isn't it? They don't have to wish very hard, but there have to be a lot of the suckers. Well, it works both ways, I find my own assistants unable to tell me whether Gandhi ever committed public suicide. They honestly can't remember. And this isn't a matter of poor education. In university, they were completely unaware of what had happened at the time. Ask them about the machine elves sometimes, see how many they can name. At this point, goodness no, they couldn't name a Darrow that killed their own parents. Why hasn't your prime minister been eaten yet? Give it a week. Hell, give it until Friday. It's always great to see you. Come back on if you can be outside next week. Thanks, I'll take you up on that. Anyway, let's get back to Redacted. The interviewer's co-host is visibly uncomfortable. Are we still on? Day 17, Wednesday, 5/8. The recall is a moderate success. Approximately 200,000 instances of SCP-1425 are confiscated and destroyed by incineration. An additional claim is released to the press indicating that copies of star signals may have been contaminated with ricin due to an attack by domestic terrorists. Various subjects who are afflicted with Ojai syndrome are gathered by the Foundation and administered a series of doses of Class B amnestics. They are returned to their mental facilities with a sharp decline in symptoms. The Foundation is granted emergency permission by the CDC and the NHS to treat Ojai syndrome sufferers, following a partially fabricated presentation in which the illness is presented as a condition caused by a parasitic organism. Several international cases are reported, but these are highly sparse and too difficult to track. Broadcast intercepted by Protocol Fuchsius. North Carolina Public Access Children's Program, Peppy's Backyard. The host, a man in a rabbit makeup referred to as Peppy, is speaking to several children sitting on the set in a semicircle. All right, kids, I think you'll be surprised by our next guest. He's a clown that teaches as well as he learns and dishes it out as well as he takes it. Because nobody hates... Producer off screen, we don't have any guests today, Peppy. Then what are we doing? This episode is about being creative. Really? Sorry, I got distracted, I guess. Kids, pay close attention. I'll teach you how to make candles out of whoever you find lying around. Producer, inaudible. I have what? No, stop being such a square. Yeah. Fifth church shit is weird, man. Day 18, Thursday, 5/9. The rate at which instances of SCP-1425 are confiscated begins to slow. Most remaining readers are under the influence of 1425's suggestion and have no intention of relinquishing their copy of the text. In metropolitan areas across coastal America and major cities in Britain, as well as towns in the major U.S. near Foundation facilities and known to be areas where the sect known as the Southern Fiftism has taken root, agents travel from door to door in hazardous material suits using the cover story. The copies of star signals have been contaminated by ricin powder. A small percentage of occupied houses contain subjects moderately affected by SCP-1425 who resisted agents, who resorted to physical coercion in confiscating SCP-1425. During the personal intervention operations of days 18 and 19, 9 subjects under the effects of SCP-1425 are terminated in America due to their impeding the continued execution of Protocol Ophiuchus. And only 4 such incidents occur in England. In Britain, where the Fifth Church's influence seems to be much weaker, SCP-1425 is believed to be almost entirely eradicated by this time. In an incident quickly concealed by the United States government, 3 senators, names redacted, attempted to report President George W. Bush to the FBI. In the official report, the legislative officials claimed that President Bush is impostoring because he was executed months ago. The senators go on to suggest a live execution on broadcast television, which will definitely take. They unanimously insist that it be hosted by comedian Dana Carvey, who could have his fingers force-fed to him as an opening sketch. Broadcast intercepted by Protocol Ophiuchus. The May 9th episode of popular talent show American Idol is removed from air in its entirety. After approximately 10 minutes of advertisements and preliminary introduction, the host, Ryan Seacrest, stops when introducing the first contestant. Transcript follows. Seacrest. Now let's get down to business. You probably remember our first singer from last week when he made his version of Paula. Are you crying? Abdul. I just feel kind of sick. Ladies and gentlemen, Paula's had a long week. You think it might be happening? I think you need to go. Go on with the show. Cowl. No, we want to hear about this. I think it's coming up. I just want to let everyone know. Right now, Paula can't see us. Her vision is obscured by a world that's being slaughtered like a cat. Fresh cavities open in the earth like sucking maws because it doesn't want to wait for the flesh to cool. Their teeth melt as they're cremated alive. Come on, Jim, focus on her pain. We might need it for later. Paula Abdul sits up as her neck wrenches back as if by spasms. Her mouth opens wide and thick black smoke begins to spew forth. And there you go, Randy. Take a deep breath. You might be able to join her in hell. I'll do that shit in my own home. Ryan, just take off the mask. We aren't even on the air right now. This, as he tugs at his cheek with his left hand, this is real. They'll have to rip it off me. You're alive with the words, right? I'm alive with the words. This is followed by 2 minutes of silence from the host, judges, and audience. After that, Seacrest, Cowell, and Jackson imitate Paula, emitting smoke upward from their mouths into the studio. At no point does the audience audibly react. This continues until the end of the episode, with the camera angle focused on the judges, occasionally interspersed with a close-up of audience member frozen in shock or weeping silently. Day 19, Friday, 5/10. As efforts made to enforce the Protocol Ophiuchus reach their peak, behavior consistent with descriptions of Ojai syndrome reaches its zenith. Foundation patrols find Ojai syndrome sufferers in the streets claiming to be following smoke, as outlined in the text. See document 1425-A. The event is presented to the news as the result of a foodborne parasite, and individuals are instructed to report to local hospitals where the Foundation provides amnestic therapy. A total of 400 individuals in the U.S. and 300 individuals in Britain are located and treated with Class B amnestics. Note, this indicates that efforts prior to 5/10/05 in Britain were much less sufficient than previously thought. Further inquiry is recommended. Broadcast intercepted by Protocol Ophiuchus. On the daytime talk show Redacted hosts an episode alone. The studio is dark and apparently contains no audience. The host carries a lit candle for illumination. 2 cameras are used, though it is unknown how they are being operated. One is set up to capture Redacted and the seat across from her. One is directly in front of her. Redacted greets the audience, her face lit from below. Her face is flushed and bears smeared makeup, indicating recent crying. She explains in a flat voice that the lights in the studio have been shut off, an act which she finds preferable, as she does not want to see what's in here. She conducts an interview which, she claims, is with the comedian Dave Chappelle. However, he is never seen, nor is the chair he is claimed to be seated in, and no response to her questions is audible. She reacts as if hearing responses, however, sometimes breaking into laughter or wiping tears from her eyes. Subjects range from from the mundane, the latest season of the sketch comedy series Chappelle's Show, to more anomalous topics such as astronomical events related to the text of SCP-1425, including Redacted. At the 20-minute mark, Redacted is speaking directly into the camera when she is interrupted by a black-gloved hand grabbing her mouth from behind. A muffled scream is heard from the host as she is pulled backward from her seat and the candlelight is snuffed below frame. Foundation agents who were deployed to the studio arrive, presuming that Redacted's statement that the show was airing live were accurate 6 minutes after this event. The studio is completely empty with no sign of recent activity. Day 20. As Saturday, 5/11, and onward. Fewer than redacted copies of SCP-1425 are believed to be extant in society, not counting any which remain directly in the hands of the Fifth Church. Over the next week, a further 200 sufferers of Ojai syndrome are cured and released. And 24 celebrities offer apologies for erratic behavior displayed during the SCP-1425 event. Note that all personalities involved in television incidents claim to have no memory of the events, including any crew and audience members present. Continued monitoring of subjects treated for Ojai syndrome indicates that no apparent long-term effects. Protocol Fuchsias enters its final stage. The first part involves continuous internal surveillance for SCP-1425 related incidents and Redacted. Since then, only one broadcast has been interrupted due to the protocol, a British celebrity news program which aired footage of Prince Harry, data expunged, consistent with the 510 broadcast. The second part consists of the systemic elimination of all records of star signals, Ojai syndrome, and any related incidents from the public record and public history. All film and print records of SCP-1425 related events have been eradicated. Unclassed amnestic program 1425 Leth data expunged. Measures to neutralize the Fifth Church as a threat to the goals of the Foundation are put into the planning phase in a mission which would later be designated Operation Stargazer. Addendum 1425-A. If you're learning of Event 1425 for the first time, the details reported here may come as a surprise. It's a hard notion to swallow, even for a Foundation researcher, that we could cut 3 weeks of Western culture from memory and history. That doubt is justified. The party line is that the SCP Foundation is all capable and all prepared. But if you're reading this, you've earned a little candor. The incontrovertible fact of Event 1425 is that we got lucky. Circumstances won the day. For a number of reasons. Those reasons are not listed in the event log. Not all omissions leave helpful little notes behind. 1. The situation was much worse than we realized. In case you haven't been here long enough to learn to read between the lines, this wasn't just a containment breach. One reality warping, mimetically active fantasy book outside of custody is a containment breach. 1 million such objects in uncontained circulation, well, the official term is impending CK-class reality restructuring event, and they would have gotten away with it too, as I'm about to explain. 2. The cleanup in England was a fiasco. The eradication of SCP-1425 from Great Britain failed substantially, and we didn't realize it until it was nearly too late. On Sunday, a day after the officially marked end date of the event, there was an existential shift during a royal parade when thousands of loyal subjects were together on the streets. From 11 to 11:45, London looked, to anyone paying attention, like it had been dismembered and sewn back together with a Glasgow smile and things wriggling under the skin. Even I will not describe what they did to the Queen. Nobody remembers it, of course, and the only camera that captured it was an old Betamax camcorder. Yes, we have the tape. It's a taste of what would have happened if we had not acted quickly or effectively, or if we hadn't been assisted. 3. We had help. We had a lot of it. For one, the Fifth Church was covering up its own actions for us, especially once its focus shifted from remaking the world to damage control and PR integrity. We didn't know how they managed to keep basically everyone from discussing the actual contents of SCP-1425, chalk it up to mind control, nor how they kept the memories out of the heads of any eyewitnesses, including studio audiences. But their secrecy did half the work for us. I should add that the further action redacted covers a lot of messy business. Most of it was taken out in case of the Fifth Church got their hands on the information, but I'm getting ahead of myself. One such point is the full cooperation of the FCC and Ofcom in allowing us to kill broadcasts whenever we required. The favor we did them to make them owe us like that is beyond even my clearance. 4. It wasn't enough. Protocol of Fuchsius, spookiest of all spook shows, was a massive expenditure of resources which did a lot of good, but it wasn't a complete success. Our expert procedures for avoiding star signals in the public consciousness, primary among them being the expectation that the cover story would be swallowed and society's attention would move on, left certain gaps behind to say the least. Another point in the protocol was a certain SCP object, which was to be used only if absolutely necessary, and we used it. We're still dealing with the consequences of activating Project Leth, but I do not regret the decision. Sometimes you have to cut deeper into a wound to clean the infection. 5. The EID's lucky number, apparently. We were betrayed. The investigation carried out in the England sites uncovered the reason that Ophusius was less effective there. Fifthist infiltration. Another secret of the church, leaking in acolytes under our radar for a year, maybe longer. Needless to say, we purged the English sites of any moles so quickly that it'd make your head spin. That is, unless you're a Southern Fifthist, and it does that already. I leave you with a warning. Command's stance on the topic is that the sleepers have been eradicated, but it's my belief that the operation was not local. If, at any point, you detect a whiff of bullshit, or smoke for that matter, tell your director. Hell, tell me. And if you're a Fifthist yourself, and you're reading this, I can only congratulate you on your success, but I should ask, does the phrase a star mean anything to you? It does to me. Make sure to ask your deacon. J. Erlenmeyer, Director, EID, Liverpool, 8/15/2006. And that was SCP-1425, Star Signals. A fun little, I like to say, a little dip of the toe into mimetic hazards, as well as the Fifthist Church. Probably the strangest, but one of the cooler groups of interest. Don't get me wrong, the Sarkic skin cult, neat. Church of the Broken God, cool. Fifthists, I don't know what the fuck these guys are doing. This is neat to me. But I do believe the big takeaway from this entire entry, let's agree to never be creative again. Our next entry on the docket. Another one of my personal favorites, probably my absolute favorite. Or, my absolute favorite changes a lot. I can't say that it's my absolute favorite. But the next one we have is SCP-701, the Hanged King's Tragedy. The Hanged King is an individual within the SCP canon that has, well, massive quotes around canon, that has a lot to him. This is another one where if you want to look more into SCP-701 and the lore about it, you absolutely can. We won't be going into all of it today. This is just a little taster. SCP-701 is a Euclid entity. All materials relating to SCP-701 are to be kept in a triple-locked archive at storage site redacted. These items currently consist of the 2 currently extant copies of the 16 Quarto, 27 copies of the 1965 trade paperback edition, 10 copies of a 1971 hardcover printing, 21 floppy diskettes consisting of data seized from raids on Expunged, 1 VHS videocassette tape designated SCP-701-19 redacted-A, and 1 steel knife of unknown origin designated SCP-701-19-B. At no time are any of these items to be removed from the room. Access to the area is to be heavily monitored. Absolutely no personnel whatsoever is to be granted access to the archive without the express in-person permission of Doctors Redacted, Redacted, and Redacted. The image you see on the right-hand side on the page itself is of SCP-701-1. The image I have up, that is an artist's rendition of this entire play. Because that's what the Hanged King's Tragedy is. SCP-701, The Hanged King's Tragedy, is a Carolina-era revenge tragedy in 5 acts. Performances of the play are associated with sudden, psychotic, and suicidal behavior among both observers and participants, as well as the manifestation of a mysterious figure. Classified as SCP-701-1, historical estimates place the number of lives claimed by the play at between redacted and redacted over the past 300 years. Performances of the Hanged King Tragedy do not always end with an outbreak. Of the expunged recorded performances, only roughly 36.78% have ended in SCP-701 events. According to historical records and investigations, these outbreaks generally follow the same pattern: 1 to 2 weeks, 7 to 14 days prior to the event. During the dress rehearsal period, cast members will begin to spontaneously deviate from the published text of the play. Rather than improvisation or gaffes associated with going off script, said deviations will be both orderly and consistent, as if the actors were working off a new version of the script. The cast and production crew will seem unaware of any change and, if it is brought to their attention, will state that the play has run that way from the beginning. 2 to 3 hours prior to event. The outbreak generally occurs during opening night or else at the production with the greatest planned attendance, generally falling within the first week after the play's opening. 1 to 2 hours before event. SCP-701-1 begins to appear on stage in the final scene of Act 1. Generally in the background or to the side of the main action. It may seem to enter or exit the stage area, but does not appear to ever enter the backstage or offstage area. It simply disappears when not on stage. The cast does not appear to notice or comment on SCP-701-1, at least at first. The event. SCP-701-1 appears fully on stage during the banquet scene in Act 5. Here it will be incorporated into the action of the play as the Hanged King. The cast will either murder each other or commit suicide, sometimes using items that seem to appear spontaneously on stage. Rioting breaks out in the audience, with viewers randomly attacking anyone in front of them, regardless of prior relationship. Following the event. If any of the audience members survive the initial outbreak, they may exit the performance space, in which case they will continue to engage in random or opportunistic violence. Victims will generally require sedation or restraint in this scenario. Normal personality will begin to return roughly 24 hours after the event. Surviving victims will generally exhibit signs consistent with a traumatic experience. Some will have no recollection of the event. Others may be rendered permanently comatose or psychotic. For a typical case study of an outbreak, see Incident Report SCP-701-19-1, an analysis of the events leading up to the last uncontained SCP-701 event in 19 redacted, during a high school drama performance in somewhere, probably United States. For more information on the play's published text, see document SCP-701-1640-B-1. In short, SCP-701 is a self-evolving memetic virus transmitted through unknown means through the text of the play. Dr. L has theorized that SCP-701 events may involve expunged. This hypothesis is consistent with a spike in redacted levels detected via satellite in the vicinity of the 19 redacted incident following expunged. Foundation agents are under standing orders to suppress any performances or publication of SCP-701 whenever found or detected. Despite our best efforts to the contrary, however, the play remains freely available online, sometimes under different titles. All attempts to detect or isolate the origin of these copies have failed. Suppression of the play's publication has generally been successful, with most copies of a 1971 scholarly edition destroyed before distribution. Nonetheless, copies of the 1965 trade paperback turn up with some regularity in both college and high school libraries. Agents are to obtain or otherwise destroy these items whenever possible. History. The first known publication of the Hanged King's tragedy was a quarto dated 1640. The play's author is not listed. The publisher, one William Cook, disappeared from the historical record soon thereafter. Strangely, the text does not appear in the stationer's register. The first known SCP-701 event on record occurred in 18 redacted during performance of the play in blank, USA. Other significant incidents include the 19 redacted performance at a small theater in blank, the 1964 performance at the University of Redacted, the 19 redacted performance at Redacted University, the first SCP-701 event successfully suppressed by the Foundation, the 19 redacted performance by a student group in California, the television adaptation by the Redacted Broadcasting Corporation, production successfully shut down by the Foundation before broadcast, and the 19 redacted incident in Ohio, USA, designated SCP-701-19-1. Publication history. Original 1640 quarto, all known copies in Foundation custody. 1733 folio edition, republished in 1790. 1813 Cambridge University Press edition. 1965 trade paperback edition. 1971 hardcover edition. Agents should note that copies of the play have often been misfiled under different titles or spellings of the title. Furthermore, photocopies of the 1965 text have been found in circulation throughout college theater departments in the continental United States and in the United Kingdom. Additional. Given the high probability of expunged in my mind, I again recommend that SCP-701 be upgraded to Keter class. The SCP-701 memetic virus may very well be the forefront of an invasion scenario. Furthermore, expunged, Dr. L. Denied. None of the current information we have on SCP-701 indicates an XK class scenario. Until we have additional data, classification will remain at Euclid. Face facts, Doctor. The cat's been long out of the bag on this one, and in this line of business, we consider ourselves lucky if we only lose 100 or so people every 10 years. Now let us go into the two previously mentioned incident reports. Or rather, Incident Report 1 and Document 2. Incident Report SCP-701-19 Redacted-1. Location expunged. Report prepared by Dr. R and J on the content of SCP-701-19-A. SCP-701-19-A is an 187mm by 103mm by 25mm SVHS video cassette tape recovered by investigators from the scene of the incident, a performance of SCP-701 at Redacted High School in Redacted. Tape was found in a destroyed consumer-grade camcorder, which is apparently recording the performance from a vantage point within the audience. It is the only surviving record of the event. Please see the SCP-701 archives for the full transcript of the recording. In order to compare the identified deviations during the SCP-701 event with the actual plot of the published text, see document SCP-701-1640-B-1. That's 0. So the tape begins, the house lights go down, and in 5 minutes the curtain rises. The play begins as published with Gonzalo's coronation speech. 10 minutes in, a possible sighting of SCP-701 during Isabella's ravings. An anomalous shadow, not belonging to one of the cast members, shows up along the back wall of the set. Several seconds later, the shadow is gone. 13 minutes later, the first deviation from the text occurs. Rather than the dialogue between Francisco and the courtesan, the curtain drops and comes back up on a bare stage. Antonio enters from stage right. First indirect sighting of SCP-701-1. The shadow of a figure seems to appear on the back wall from stage right. Antonio stops in place and acts surprised. The shadow disappears. Antonio begins a long soliloquy, confirming that he now believes Isabella's story. Dr. J notes that while this soliloquy is in the style of the rest of the play, and seems to be accurate Caroline-era dialogue, Antonio's speech in this scene does not exist in the original text. Less than a minute later, the curtain drops, and once again rises on Francisco and the courtesan. Antonio returns. The play continues as scripted. 31 minutes in, the first direct sighting of SCP-701-1 is made. It enters and stands at the edge of the stage. It enters and stands at the edge of stage left towards the end of Act 2, Scene 1. Over a minute later, Gonzalo's dialogue concludes as scripted with the mention of an appointment with the ambassador from Aligata. He exits stage left. SCP-701-1 seems to turn and follow him as the lights go down. 38 minutes in, a second sighting of SCP-701-1 occurs during Act 3, Scene 1. It appears on the edge of the stage as Gonzalo and Petruccio murder Sortino. The scene concludes with Gonzalo ordering his cooks to prepare the corpse as a stew. Scripts recovered from the scene indicate that this section had been cut in rehearsal. 51 minutes in. Third sighting of SCP-701-1 appears close to stage left as Antonio kills Isabella. 109-12. Fourth sighting, SCP-701-1 enters with Gonzalo at the beginning of Act 4, Scene 1, and follows him throughout the scene. The scene also contains two key moments. First, Gonzalo seems to nod to SCP-701-1 when he mentions the ambassador of Aligata. This is the first time a cast member has seemed to indicate SCP-701-1's presence. Second, the scene ends with a deviation from the text, whereas the scripted speech at the end of Act 4, Scene 1 ends with Gonzalo considering his own moral inequity. Gonzalo here seems to be more concerned that his tribute will be sufficient for the ambassador. The lights go down. At 1 hour and 21 minutes in, fifth sighting. The SCP-701-1 enters stage left at the end of Act 4, Scene 2, as Antonio leaves to secure a blade for his coup. Rather than exiting, Antonio stops in front of SCP-701-1, who hands him a long dagger. This is believed to be the first appearance of the item classified SCP-701-19-B. Note that there is no mention of the item in the prop list or the other records maintained by the production. SCP-701-1 and Antonio depart the stage together. An hour and 32 minutes in. The sixth sighting, SCP-701 appears on stage left as Cornari and Lodovico exit. Several minutes later, the lights come up. Act 5, Scene 1, the banquet scene begins as scripted. 5 minutes later, Antonio enters bearing a piece of parchment. Here the textual deviations begin in earnest. Rather than the parchment being Petruccio's confession as scripted, Antonio instead describes it as an invoice from the ambassador of Aligata, proving that Gonzalo owes more tribute than he intends to pay. SCP-701 enters at this point. SCP-701-1 enters at this point from stage right. The entire cast seems to perceive it. Gonzalo stands up, curses as an aside to the audience, and runs for stage left. The rest of the cast, including Alinda and Francisco, who enter from stage left, physically restrain Gonzalo and drag him back to the stage. SCP-701-1, meanwhile, moves to the center of the stage where it stands in front of Gonzalo's throne. A noose is dropped from the stage from above. The cast force Gonzalo into the noose as he begins to curse in Italian and in one place, possibly Latin. The noose is drawn taut, and the cast drops Gonzalo. He begins to asphyxiate. Antonio speaks. With this, the tribute in full it is paid. The actor takes SCP-701-19-B, the dagger, and draws it across Gonzalo's stomach, spilling his intestines across the stage. Alinda takes the dagger from Antonio. She speaks. With this, fool's blood, it is the Hanged King's. She cuts Antonio's throat. Ropes drop from the roof of the stage, a noose for each cast member. The cast assembles underneath them. Alinda takes position next to SCP-701-1. Alinda. With this, our blood, it is the Hanged King's. The cast hang themselves. SCP-701-1 moves through the hanging corpses and to front center stage. The stage lights cut out. Sounds of screaming and physical violence around the camera. Loud sound, most likely the camera being knocked over, and the camera is destroyed with the tape ending. So that's what occurs during one of these performances. We'll now open up document SCP-701-1640, which is simply, and I will not read the entirety of this. This is a very good, this is a summary of the Hanged King's tragedy. It's very good. I recommend taking the time to read it yourself if you have it. The only reason I'm not going to go into it is because we more or less just covered all of it. We know where the changes are and such. This is just a little bit of fluff added on top to make it a little nice. But the Hanged King's tragedy. This is actually a large setup for a character called the Hanged King. The first entry in which he is mentioned. A very, very cool force just within the SCP universe as a whole. I really like this one. Next. Which of these do I want to do next, actually? You know what? We'll do this one. I am actually going to issue a warning for the next one I'm going to do. It is graphic. It's fuck nasty. It's bad. I love it. It's really good. It's a time. It's absolutely a time. So with this one, we are going to be examining a Keter. The last two we will be examining are Ketters, both of which are lightly themed around the season. In this case, family gatherings and the like. SCP-2852 is Cousin Johnny. Oh, I need to give my throat a second, so we're just going to take a bit, since we're a little bit ahead of schedule here, so I have time to kind of relax for a moment. 28. The last one that I'm going to be doing is another in the 28 series. It's not that long. I like it a lot. It's not that long. But again, this one's nasty. So if you're squeamish, then consider this your warning. We're just going to take 15 minutes just to kind of hang out, though. Listen to the crackle of the fire for a bit. Give my throat a little bit of a break. Also, absolutely, what a time to be alive. You know, This month it felt like the entirety of December passed in the span of a week. This December has been really, really weird, man. Like, 1 minute it felt like I was looking at the calendar and it was the start of the month. The next time I looked at it, it was already Christmas. And it was like, what in the world is going on? That's the thing. For me, it's like it's felt the entire time like since all this shit started back in March, I remember barely anything. Like, I think I played Persona 5, like Persona 5 Royal in there somewhere. I'm almost certain I did. I don't fucking remember it. Oh no. What's your funny there, Robin? I'm concerned. Concerned, confused. God, fucking murder hornets. What month was that? Yeah, they probably realized that refusing the offer was probably silly. The house I'm finalizing buying made an offer a couple weeks prior. Didn't get it. Later, we were approached by the seller, and they asked if we were still interested. My parents were like, it was a couple months ago that you put the offer in, right? It was 15 days ago. They had myriad better offers, but they went with the best. I don't understand that sentence. They were crazy. So you bought the House of Maniacs. I approximate that you have about 30 skeletons in your walls. Or at least one squatter in your attic. I don't know which is going to be worse in this instance. Oh, the buyer was crazy. Wait, what? Okay. That's weird. I'm curious as to what the more details... Yeah, like, I'm curious as to what that entails. Yeah, like, that's the question. Like, what does "they were crazy" in this instance mean? But, anyway. Break time's over. I am sorry for the SCP I'm about to subject you to. I really like this one, but it is really kind of gross. If you are squeamish, this is the last warning I'll give. Please, take a step back. The last one won't be this bad. The last one's really cool. Put it on mute and watch for when the picture on the right side of the screen changes. If you are squeamish, this one may fuck with you a bit. It did me the first time I heard it, and I'm not particularly squeamish. So viewer discretion advised. We're now moving on, though. This one is the first Keter. There are a couple of fuck ton of bugs ones, my man. There are a few of those. But this one is an object class of Keter, which means there is no known way to contain it safely or consistently. This is a dangerous entity. It is a deadly entity. It is probably malicious. And the Foundation has no clue how to stop it. They just may know a way to contain it. But the special containment procedures. Containment of SCP-2852. Oh, the SCP-J one. I haven't read an SCP-J in so long. If I have time, I may try and find one of them. Because there's one specifically that's like a joke, like, so few people laugh at, but I fucking love it. It's my favorite one. But this one first. Containment of SCP-2852 is to focus on tracking and disruption of incidents where possible, and general monitoring of SCP-2852 compatible population centers. All individuals involved in blue level and white level events are to be monitored extensively, and their identities are to be given to local law enforcement as potential terrorist threats. Even when disrupted, individuals involved in blue level and white level events are to be cataloged, and their names are to be sent to local law enforcement agencies. Individuals witnessing the disruption of either event are to be given Class B amnestics. Black level events are to be monitored until conclusion. Afterwards, all participants are to be treated with Class A amnestics and are otherwise treated identically to those affected by other events. Members of Mobile Task Forces Upsilon 36, 52, and 99 who witness a black level event are to be treated with Class A amnestics upon retirement or transfer and are to be monitored for any signs of antisocial or otherwise uncharacteristic behavior. If found to have been infected by black level event, operatives are to be amnesticized, suspended from all field operations, and redesignated to low-level, low-intensity work, i.e. maintenance and data input. MTF Y36 party crashers are tasked with responding to any SCP-2852 appearance. MTF's Y52 cater duty and Y99 altar boys are tasked to identify SCP-2852 and provide backup to MTF Y36 as needed. MTF's Y52 and Y99 are to establish presence within communities where 60% of the population is Roman Catholic or, as of Revision 2852-7, Anglican. Anglican. Any SCP-2852 instance found attached to a different religious group must be reported to a researcher with level 4-2852 clearance immediately. While currently isolated to the North American subcontinent, all SCP-2852 compatible communities are to be monitored for an uncharacteristic rise in juvenile delinquency, sterility, domestic violence, and divorce rates. This is what I meant when the containment procedures for these entities are almost always not going to be actually containing it and more containing the effect. That is what a Keter is. Doesn't necessarily mean it'll destroy the world. Does mean you can't keep it in a box. Description. Instances of SCP-2852 have the appearance of a middle-aged white male. Biologically, the cells of 2852 instances are genetically identical and human. However, instances do not have any identifiable organs. Their bodies are made up of fibrous muscular tissue, with the teeth and hair being made out of chitin, chemically similar to those of the Cicadidae family. The eyes of SCP-2852 instances, while looking non-anomalous from a distance, are set in the sockets without any nerve connections. While capable of speech despite having no vocal cords or analogous organs, SCP-2852 instances do not show any grasp of language, speaking in a word salad. Despite this, all individuals in SCP-2852 compatible event will perceive the subject as speaking intelligibly and will regard its actions as normal, unless briefed of its anomalous properties beforehand. Individuals describe SCP-2852 as being playful with a crude sense of humor, and all individuals affected in the SCP-2852 event will refer to the subject as Cousin Johnny. While sentient, SCP-2852 instances do not appear sapient. SCP-2852 instances appear at various Catholic and Anglican religious functions and are treated as being an established member of the family. Instances of SCP-2852 are accepted regardless of family resemblance or ethnicity. The entity appears at baptisms, weddings, and funerals, referred to as blue level, white level, and black level events, respectively. Currently, no SCP-2852 instance has been found to appear at any other family gathering. All attempts at tracking SCP-2852 instances before and after an event have met with failure. The entities are able to appear at such events as though they had always been there, alternatively appearing between frames when under surveillance, or simply evading any attempt by operatives to keep them out of an event. All tracking devices placed on SCP-2852 instances have malfunctioned immediately, with the entity evading any surveillance. Each family gathering that the SCP-2852 attends result in different behavior from the subject and different effects. Generally, the effects of SCP-2852 appearing at a family gathering result in more serious damage done to children, although adults are not free from its effects. It is worth noting that stopping an SCP-2852 instance before it involves itself in a religious ritual will not stop its effects from spreading, although they may be diluted. The appearance of SCP-2852 at an event is enough for its effects to start spreading among the family. When questioned after an event, all affected individuals report a feeling of fondness towards SCP-2852, regardless of its actions. We're going to begin with blue level events. Probably the most tame of all of them. SCP-2852's effects at a blue level event are present more strongly in the child being baptized, its parents, and any godparents chosen for the occasion. During the baptismal ritual, SCP-2852 will involve itself directly in the proceedings, acting as a third godparent when traditionally there are only two, a male and a female. Blue level events proceed identically, despite the presence of a third godparent, until the child is submerged into the water. Immediately, the child's top layer of skin will slough off in one piece as though molting. This process does not seem to harm the child in any meaningful way. The godparents will then eat the skin between each other. Afterwards, the mass will go on as normal, and SCP-2852 will exit along with the family. It is of note that SCP-2852 does not appear at any family celebration held after the baptism. The baptized child has a chance of dying within the next 6 months, well above the national average. Living children exhibit multiple cluster B personality disorders. Most join anti-capitalist groups, various groups of interest, or, if unchecked, will engage in destructive behaviors, usually manifesting in self-harm, abuse of animals, or abuse of small children. Godparents and biological parents will be rendered sterile, regardless of SCP-2852's success in becoming part of the baptismal ritual. Both groups commit suicide within 5 years of a blue level event, normally through drowning. All individuals not involved in the baptismal ritual are 500% more likely than the national average to have stillbirths. Those who are still capable of having children are far more likely to abandon them, sometimes allowing the child to die in the process. One couple affected by a blue level event in Redacted, Ohio, gave birth to triplets, which they then tore apart and hung from trees around their property. Past adolescence and into adulthood, children exposed to the song of cicadas respond with extreme anxiety and accompanying physical symptoms such as dry mouth, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and headaches. Some subjects' agitation escalates into violent outbursts, which have resulted in at least 20 fatalities. When interviewed about the cause of their disturbance, no subjects have ever identified cicada song as a trigger for their episodes. Even in one interview involving level 5 enhanced interrogation, the subject never indicated the role of a cicada song in his attack on Redacted Parish, which resulted in 18 dead and 10 wounded, including his parents and 3 siblings. Next, we will be discussing White Level SCP-2852 events. These are marriages. During the marriage ceremony, SCP-2852 will insert itself as a groomsman, and its most deleterious anomalous effects will only manifest after the vows. After the rings have been exchanged, SCP-2852 will produce various implements that allow the bridesmaids and groomsmen to pull out their teeth one by one. The individuals seem to be oblivious to any pain that would normally take place during such an event, and blood loss through still unknown means does not occur. The bride and groom will be presented with the teeth and will eat them. Damage done to the bride and groom's teeth and jaw are extensive, but any blood loss that occurs will not be fatal. The groom will then, in place of vows, vocalize a currently unknown cicada song, which has been known to reach 140 decibels, rendering the bride and those on the altar deaf. Currently, no groom has been deafened by his own call. At the wedding reception, SCP-2852 will take the role of the best man and give a speech. This speech, as all vocalizations of SCP-2852, will be nonsensical with no pattern to the words used. Individuals react to the speech with mixed emotions, some crying uncontrollably and others falling into hysterical laughter. After the speech, SCP-2852 will produce a gift for the married couple. This gift currently has always been 3.5 kilograms of human hair of various colors, 13 deceased specimen of Tibicin lineae, and 23 human teeth in a cardboard box. DNA testing on all gifts have been inconclusive. The bride and groom of a White Level event will divorce on average 2 years after their wedding, usually as a result of domestic violence. Any children produced during their marriage will have cluster B personality disorders or life-threatening disfigurements. All married individuals attending the event will find themselves unable to have children despite a lack of detectable changes to fertility-related biology. Sperm counts and sperm quality remain unaffected. Ovulation also remains unchanged, and no genetic irregularities have been observed in eggs. The Foundation has arranged a statistically significant number of hysterectomies for guests at White Level events. The surgeries are prescribed and administered by third-party agents in the medical industry. Exhaustive biopsies, chemical analysis, and mechanical inspections of the extracted uteri and ovaries have failed to yield any signs of abnormality. All children involved in a White Level event will avoid romantic relationships, and 9 out of 10 commit suicide by the age of 18. Roughly half pull out their teeth until blood completely blocks the airways, and the others bite down on their wrists until exsanguinated. And now we're on to the Black Level events. These, if you will remember, are funerals, and are the worst of them. Black Level events are notable in that any attempt to disrupt the event through any means result in the actor becoming a participant in the event. Currently, there exists no way to stop or end a Black Level event. Any attempts at barring SCP-2852 instances from the church or funeral home result in SCP-2852 simply appearing in a pew. During a Black Level event, SCP-2852 will take the place of the eulogizer, even if one was not scheduled to speak during the Mass. The speech, as any vocalization by SCP-2852, will be nonsensical, with no patterns being found. However, as the subject speaks, the individual closest to the departed will open the casket and produce a long knife. The knives produced during the Black Level event are not seen before the event and disappear after it. The individual will then exsanguinate themselves, normally from the wrists, but there have been instances where individuals have slit their throats. In turn, 2 by 2, each attendant will use the knife to pour their blood into the casket. Children too young to exsanguinate themselves are helped by adults. Despite many losing enough blood to result in death, no physical effects are seen in the participants. SCP-2852's speech eventually turns into the song of an adult male, Tibeson Linnae. All participants will respond with the same call, despite the song of the cicada being limited to the male. 2852 will stand at the pulpit until each individual has bled themselves, and then will walk to the casket and vomit a mixture of blood, wood pulp, and dead specimen of Tibeson Linnae. It is currently unknown how SCP-2852 instances are able to hold the mixture within themselves due to the lack of any cavity of sufficient size in its body. Once finished, the funeral mass will go on as normal, and the casket filled with blood in SCP-2852's vomit will be taken to the cemetery and lowered into the earth, as is normal for a Catholic or Anglican funeral service. Black level events normally will end here. If a family gathering was planned to take place after the funeral, SCP-2852 will attend. SCP-2852 will, once all individuals affected have come to the location, vomit a similar mixture of blood, wood pulp, and dead Tibeson Linnae into a bowl. This mixture will be primarily eaten by the affected children. After this has been eaten, SCP-2852 will give another speech of nonsensical words without patterns, strip itself, and lay upon a table. The participants then will eat 2852's flesh until there is nothing left. During this, SCP-2852 will still vocalize even when suffering from mortal injuries. Participants have been known to carry on friendly conversations with SCP-2852 while eating it. Children unable to chew whole food properly will be fed mouth to mouth by any caregivers. All participants of a Black Level event will break from their family either through suicide, moving, or divorce. Every individual involved in the event will be rendered sterile. Domestic violence participants of Black Level events will usually be of a cannibalistic nature, resulting in the death of one or both individuals. 6 out of 10 children involved will attempt to murder one or both of their parents before they turn 18. It is theorized that nearly a third of Catholic and Anglican D-Class were involved in a Black Level event. For further research regarding related phenomena, please see the database entry for SCP-3004. That was SCP-2852. So, SCP-3004. I'm not going to be covering it today. If I do this again, I'll probably cover it then. But SCP-3004 is directly related to this one. I'm not sure if they were written by the same guy. They very well might have been. But if they weren't, it was very, very well done on the part of 3004's writer. They're both very good, but 3004 is actually a very interesting entry just on the whole. I highly recommend checking it out on your own, as I will not be covering it here. And now we'll be moving to the last one. This one I felt was a little bit... I wanted to be as close to in the spirit as I could without actually going into any of the Christmas-themed SCPs. I'm not terribly fond of those ones. I don't think they're bad, I'm just not a fan of them. So this last one is the closest we'll get. And we're not really that close. This is the deer. SCP-2845. Threat level, in this case, being something given to us not by the SCP Foundation, but the Global Occult Coalition, which is a group of interests we do not have time to get into today, but does play a slight role in this entire anomaly, this entire affair. The deer is not unique within the SCP universe in the sense that the SCP Foundation has untold numbers of really strong entities that will kill you. Godlike entities. They're a dime a dozen. That's why I wanted to save this one for the last. None of the other ones were really a being that would kill you. This one is. Wanted to showcase this part of the Foundation as well. So let's get right into it, shall we? End the stream with the deer. Containment class, Keter. Special containment procedures. Use of outsourced containment resources and consultants has been authorized for the containment of SCP-2845. Consultants are to be considered Level 2 personnel and are at no time permitted to leave Site-100. If at any time an outside consultant must be removed from containment of SCP-2845, Class A amnestics are to be applied before release. A minimum of 30 trained individuals and an unhindered supply of untrained subjects is required for proper containment of SCP-2845. 48 trained personnel are currently assigned to active containment of SCP-2845, split into 8 teams of 6, with a further 24 individuals available as replacements. An allowance of 5 D-Class per week has been authorized for the containment of SCP-2845. Site-100 has been constructed to the following specifications. Site-100 consists of 9 concentric circular bands designated Ring A through Ring I, with a gap located between Ring C and Ring D, designated as Gap 1. 6 circular chambers are located at 0, 60, 120, 180, 240, and 300 degrees within each ring and gap. The chambers located at 0 degrees are aligned with geographic north. 2 additional circular chambers are located outside of Ring I, located at 120 and 240 degrees. The floor of each circular chamber contains an unobstructed lead hexagram. The central chamber, containing SCP-2845 and 216 instances of SCP-2845-1, is to contain an atmosphere of 96.3% hydrogen, 3.25% helium, and 45% ammonia, maintained at negative 110 degrees Celsius and a pressure of 2.3 bar. The following procedures are all to be carried out in a repeating cycle of 63 hours, 43 minutes. Each procedure is to last 39 minutes, with 10 hours between each procedure. Each procedure must be carried out by 6 individuals. The location of each procedure is denoted in parentheses. At the beginning of each new cycle, containment procedures will be carried out in the next ring closest to the containment chamber. Ceremonial recitations for all procedures and descriptions of all varying costumes may be found in Document 2845-C-EXP. Procedure 410 Constantine. 60-degree containment specialists are presented with masks: joy, sadness, anger, apathy, fear, and foolishness, and act out Ceremony Constantine A. Ceremony Constantine A is a farcical comedy of errors and exchange of insults between the 6 individuals, culminating in foolishness outwitting the group in a game of riddles and declaring himself king. The conclusion of Ceremony Constantine A is followed by a game of dice. The winner of the game is irrelevant to the procedure. Procedure 420 Perinaldo, 120 degrees. Performance of a musical piece for flute, oboe, clarinet, French horn, timpani, and bass drum. The piece is accompanied by specific somatic and vocal components carried out by the players throughout the performance, designated Ceremony Perinaldo A. The performance must be live. Recordings of the piece have no effect. Procedure 430 Epimetheus, 180 degrees. Gifts are exchanged among containment specialists. Contents of gifts is irrelevant to the procedure, but each gift must not exceed 428 USD in worth. Each gift is accompanied by recitation of Ceremony Epimetheus A in its entirety and the scattering of grain around the containment chamber. Procedure 440 Cassiel. 240 degrees. Ceremony Cassiel A is recited as containment specialists bind their feet with wool and consume 5 liters of olive oil. They then will break apart a rock weighing at least 200 kilograms with hammers. Ceremony Cassiel B is recited throughout. Procedure 450 Cairo, 300 degrees. A D-class subject is prepared by painting a symbol, rings surrounding a dot, with an arrow pointing upwards at a 90-degree point, on the stomach with a platinum-based solution, and presented with a blue cloak, crown, and scepter. D-class subject is then restrained in a chair, and Ceremony Cairo A is recited. After recitation of the Ceremony Cairo A, the D-class is to be castrated by use of a hand sickle by containment specialist. The testes are then to be disposed of in a bowl of salt water as Ceremony Cairo B is recited. Procedure 460 Omphalos 0 degrees. Ceremony Omphalos A is to be recited before roasting of a child of no more than 3 months of age. Ceremony Omphalos B is to be recited before consumption. After consumption of the child, Ceremony Omphalos C is to be recited over the gastroliths, which are then swallowed. Vomiting is then induced, and Ceremony Omphalos D is recited, signaling the beginning of a new cycle. In the case of containment breach, Site 100's nuclear device is to be detonated, followed by lockdown of all Foundation facilities and activation of Protocol 2845 XK1, Strike Down the Moon. We have a message from a containment consultant redacted to Site Director Dell 13112. Towering Kadaf, my home. I have been approached several times already in regards to containment procedures and their complexity. I have been asked if all the procedures are truly necessary, if they cannot be cut down or edited for simplicity, and at least one claimed that they were patently ridiculous. This is my response, and I expect that it will be seen by all of the Foundation staff working on this project. I will not repeat myself, and I find it sickening that after all the struggle to contain this creature, pencil-pushing bureaucrats are still seeking to cut corners where they cannot be afforded to be cut. The answer is no. The ritual will remain as it is, and will not be changed in any way. It cannot be cut down further, nor can it be added to. It has been set in place, and now that it has begun, any deviation at all could very easily be catastrophic. Rituals do not work because of some underlying laws, such as those that science operates on. Rituals work because they are rituals. They work because an arbitrary set of criteria has been met with exacting care. Belief that meeting these arbitrary criteria achieves a certain end assigns power to the ritual. The actions that were once meaningless now have been assigned meaning through their repetition and application. This is how one seals away a god, and this is a god. I know that the Foundation does not approve of using the term, but it still is the case. The stag is a god, and it is not a petty local one. It is not one of the mild gods of earth or some weaker spirit that is bound by the strength of man's belief. We have, for the time being, fooled it into thinking that we have overpowered it. It does not understand that we do so falsely. It is a god. For gods, words have power. Ritual and belief hold greater power over a god than all the laws of science. However, it must be kept in mind that the stag could escape, right now, if so chose. With a thought, this entire facility could turn into a puff of hydrogen. If at any point the stag thought to escape, it would, and we would be powerless to stop it. However, it will not think to, or even to change its strategy. The idea will not even pass through its mind. It cannot comprehend the concept. It does not think in the way we think. Truth be told, I would not say that it thinks at all. This is an old god. It does not dabble in decisions. Decisions are for creatures who may act erratically, variably, or out of line. A god of this strength simply is. It is an absolute. It acts as a force. In building this ritual, we have shifted its being the slightest bit, and now it is locked into a pattern of behavior. It struggles against us, we struggle against it, and we are locked together in an eternal dance so long as the ritual remains intact. If one thing goes awry, the entirety is lost, and the deadlock is broken. Unstoppable force without an immovable object. The ritual might seem to be nonsense, but they are what I divine to be the best course of action. There are powerful symbols there, and whether or not you or I think they are appropriate to the situation is irrelevant. I have listened to the converted, and I have listened to the echoes of the stag and their songs. They're not suffering, but they are no longer human. They are changed utterly. The ritual remains as it is. All of that build up. Now for the description. SCP-2845 is a quadruped entity. Now stop asking me about it. Stop asking me if we can cut down on this ritual. We can't. That's the entire point. The ritual doesn't work unless... The ritual doesn't work if you half-ass it. Are you stupid? SCP-2845 is a quadruped entity measuring 2.9 meters in height at the shoulder and weighing 815 kilograms. A sinuous neck, generally held in an upright position, extends a further half meter, terminating in a head with a humanoid facial features. I've been doing that a lot today, it's fine. SCP-2845 possesses antlers, measuring 4.8 meters across. Antlers are white with black marbling in coloration and have not been observed to shed. SCP-2845 is covered in hair with an average length of 10 centimeters, with the exception of the face, which is hairless. SCP-2845's coloration is primarily a pastel green, with a stripe of cream on the underside of the neck and belly. A ring of ice particles is suspended 15 centimeters behind SCP-2845's skull, measuring 1.7 meters in diameter, with a ring of thickness of 35 centimeters. This ring is interrupted at regular intervals by 7 spheres consisting of metallic hydrogen and metallic helium, each measuring 15 centimeters in diameter. The ring and sphere rotate clockwise at a speed of 1.6 RPM, the force maintaining the movement of the ring. The physical state of the spheres and the means by which SCP-2845 is capable of supporting its head under the weight of its antlers is unknown. Given that physical description, I'm going to interrupt it real quick. Given that physical description, I will say what this is at the end of this. I would like you to take a guess now, actually. Because this is actually inspired by a little bit inspired by something. Like, this is representing something else. Like, this was a very deliberate design that they gave this to represent something very specific. SCP-2845 is capable of instantaneous transmutation and reconstruction of matter. No matter is created or destroyed during this process. This property is manifested at will with an observed range extending to targets within eyesight. Maximum range of this ability is unknown. Transmuted matter will remain stable despite the lack of other factors. For example, metallic hydrogen and helium are common results, which will remain in either solid or liquid form despite the surrounding temperature. Altered atmosphere will not mix with unaltered regions, maintaining chemical consistency. The most common transmutation results are the solid or liquid forms of hydrogen and helium, the conversion of atmosphere into hydrogen helium ammonia mix, and the transmutation of plant life into metalloid-based organisms. SCP-2845 will typically surround itself with a transmuted area with a radius of approximately 5 meters at all times. SCP-2845 has proven itself completely resistant to physical damage. The most common forms of offensive transmutation used by SCP-2845 are a column measuring 5 to 7 meters in diameter and 60 to 80 meters in height, or a horizontal cone measuring between 100 and 150 meters in length and 10 to 30 meters in width at the furthest end. However, SCP-2845 has been observed to attack single targets at distances up to 10 kilometers. Early observations of SCP-2845 during recovery indicated that it will generally ignore non-combatants, focusing on retaliation against attackers. However, 2845 2845 was not seen to make any attempts to spare non-combatants within the area of effect of its transmutations, and the later recovery accounts indicate preemptive attacks against both military and civilian targets. SCP-2845-1 designates human beings that have been modified by SCP-2845. Instances of SCP-2845-1 are hexagonal columns measuring 2.4 meters in height with rubbery yellow-green skin. SCP-2845-1 instances do not have any outward sense organs. An autopsy has shown that internal organs are likewise absent save the brain, which now takes up the entirety of the column and contains the reconstituted mass of the other organs and some additional outside materials. It is unknown how SCP-2845-1 instances derive nutrients or if any nutrition is required. Neuroimaging of SCP-2845-1 specimens has revealed that the brain is in a constant state of high activity. Analysis of multiple specimens indicate patterns of call and response, so some form of remote communication between SCP-2845-1 specimens is presumed. Motile variants of SCP-2845-1 have been reported, but have evaded capture and study. Addendum 01. An abridged timeline of SCP-2845 from initial discovery to containment is as follows. November 27, 2011. Initial sightings of Comet C-2011-W3. Comet C-2011-W3 confirmed by Mount John University Observatory on December 1st. Confirmed and named by Minor Planet Center in the following day. December 16th, 2011. Comet C-2011-W3 reaches perihelion. Solar Dynamics Observatory records images of a fragment breaking off from the main body of the comet, maintaining a speed of 0.0018 c. December 17th, 2011. Fragment trajectory confirmed to end in collision with Earth, with estimated impact of December 21st. Thoth Station deterrence procedure fails at changing fragment's course. Public announcement made by the United Nations. Evacuations begin. On the 21st, fragment impacts in the Pacific Ocean 124 kilometers off the western American coast. SCP-2845 believed to reach shore on the 24th. On the 25th, first observations of SCP-2845 through civilian video footage. Drone contact made. SCP-2845 confirmed as hostile. Foundation assets within United States military begin direction of recovery and containment procedures with assistance of Global Occult Coalition representatives, which effectively the Global Occult Coalition, just as a quick explainer, is the UN equivalent of the Foundation. Foundation containment sites in the region enter lockdown. December 26th to 29th, 2011. Artillery bombardment of SCP-2845 commences, along with an initial battery of tests. Contact with outside containment consultants made at this time upon observation of 2845's properties. December 30th. Data expunged. SCP-2845 is unimpeded for 16 hours. Bombardment recommences on the 31st. January 1st through the 14th. SCP-2845 is led across the Sierra Nevada mountains while remaining under heavy bombardment. Redacted develops initial containment procedures. January 15th. SCP-2845 reaches predetermined containment area. Initial containment procedures enacted. Initial containment procedures end in success. Instructions of Site-100 begins. Refinements of containment procedures implemented. 2845 declared contained. That was the deer. SCP-2845. As I said, this is inspired by something, or rather, it is trying to emulate something. And I said before that its visual description is actually a pretty esoteric way of describing it. This is a representation of the god Saturn. If you wish to see a deeper explanation of that, the YouTube channel Exploration Logs did a video on this particular SCP, And it's actually how I discovered it. I didn't ever read this far in my initial reading of it. I've only started going this far in my most recent deep dive. But it's actually a very interesting look at this that I wouldn't have actually understood. But it was actually very deliberately designed to, yeah, this is the god Saturn, in effect. Or rather, it is an interpretation of it. But that was all I had planned for today, actually. I had a little bit more planned, decided to cut it because I figured it would be off theme for what I'm not really off theme, but just not what I wanted to go for. Wouldn't have jived with the rest. But thank you for joining me on this wonderful Christmas Eve to just kind of relax and listen to some SCP bullshit. Yeah, listen, man. I wanted to do SCP-610, but SCP-610 is kind of fucky. It's fucky-wucky. And I was already doing a couple similar to it, so it's like, I'm doing Cousin Johnny. I don't want to also do 610. I'm trying to keep the gross out horror to a minimum in this one. This is meant more as like a taster of the SCP universe as opposed to a deep dive into its recesses. That's next time. I do intend on doing this again. I had fun doing this. Even with the fact that I trip over my words often enough that it's embarrassing. But you know what? I don't give a shit. It's fun. I get to share one of my favorite communities on the internet with people. The SCP Foundation community is absolutely nuts, and they are dedicated to what they do to a degree that I haven't seen from amateur writing communities elsewhere. These people deserve your respect more than anything, I think, because of what they do. They do this for free. Like, the people that make this shit do it for free, people. This is insane. Like, here, you know what? I'll see if I can find who wrote this one. Let's go to discuss. It's usually posted under there. Yep, Jorik. Like, Jorik wrote The Deer. Absolutely fucking incredible. Love it. Let's see who wrote 2852. Kinch the Knife Blade, which is apparently was only his second one, and this one is insane. I love this one. This one's fantastic. A little bit heavy on gross out horror, I will admit, but you know what? That's still impressive. I know I did 093, which is done by Snorlison in 09. Fucking 11 years ago, almost, this was made. No, more than that. Much more than that. Oh, well, no, not much more than that. Almost 12 years ago, this one was made. Or no? No. That wasn't who made it. What? Who made this one? Far 2 made it. Still almost a year ago. Or still almost 12 years ago. But Far 2 made this one. 093. My favorite one. What was another one? 701. I think Tin Watchman made this one back 12 years ago. I think that was the author of that one. Regardless, shout out to the authors on the SCP forums. They are dedicated to their craft in a way that you just don't see in a lot of these online writing communities. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying that there's a passion here that I haven't seen elsewhere. But I've gushed about it long enough. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to be here on Christmas Eve of all days. It's been fun. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. And thank you. Happy holidays. And Merry Christmas.